Thank you for the warning.
Thank you for the warning.
All right.
Oh,
You guys keep talking so that there's not too much pressure on me, right? All right. Should I call this? Okay. Helen wants me to bang the gavel. Please be nice. Eric's been up here for like 107 years, so this is my very first day. Eric's out skiing, so no one needs to worry about him. He's fine.
Mr. Powder Rolls.
I'm calling this February 28th work session to order. And we start with planning commission decisions. Any questions, comments?
No.
good.
Nothing?
No
Great.
call-ups.
How'd the new kid do?
What's that?
The new planning commissioner.
No, we have interviews.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, interviews. Oh,
Thinking
not like,
about liquor and marijuana.
it's not like me to make a mistake.
It's all right. You've got time to make up for it. All right, legislative review, Stilson Land Use Guidelines Amendment, second reading. Speak into the. Not as there.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Michelle Dahlmeyer, Planner 3 for the town of Breckenridge. In your packet is the proposed land use district 46 for a portion of the Stilson property for the second reading. After the feedback we received January 24th, at that meeting, we made a small change to the map. So as you can see in your packet, it kind of decreased the total acreage from 8.8 acres to 8.4 acres. And no other changes were made. So if you have any questions, I'm available.
Did we increase the buffer? It looks like it.
The buffer, I don't believe so.
Or is that the same?
Same.
Okay.
We provided an exhibit as well, with the land use map overlaid on the concept plan, so you can see that it matches.
Mhm.
Looks good. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Any other questions or comments?
No.
No, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, plastic pollution ordinance, second reading. Jeff. Oh, boy. Yes.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm going to take a step back here. This is related to the second reading of the plastics pollution bill. But I do want to just reiterate how we got here, because I think we've had a lot of stakeholder input and feedback that I will kind of highlight for the record. But I do want to highlight the last year in 2022 and how we got to this policy recommendation. So beginning in March 2022, as you guys know, we just completed the Sustainable BREC update last year, which was a very robust process that included, among many things, materials management as a specific topic area, as well as energy, climate action, mobility, and water. And forgive me as I'm trying to pull up which memo is which here. So related specifically to the material management goals in the Sustainable BREC update, we have goals to reduce materials going to the landfill, both in terms of source reduction and in terms of diversion from the landfill. And when I say diversion, I mean recycling and composting programs. To that end, we have a target to reduce our source generation by 2035, 20% in municipal solid waste of all types combined, regardless of material type, and also a landfill diversion goal by 2035 of 40% diversion. Within that topic area, we did have a specific policy strategy to phase out plastic bottles by 2024. That was one of a multi-pronged approach policy recommendation. And because we had to update our code to align with House Bill 211162, which was a state bill to impose the carry-out fee statewide and then phase out plastic bags, we had an opportunity to address this specific policy as part of that exercise. So we did host 2 public workshops in 2022. We also had 5 meetings here in front of the town council to discuss the different policy strategies and goals related to the Sustainable BREC plan. And then that plan was formally adopted by resolution on September 13th, 2022. So I did just want to highlight that as part of the stakeholder meetings for that process, we did meet internally with town green team and other town committees and commissions, but also community-wide with the Restaurant Association, Lodging Association, our Mountain Ideal Stewardship Committee, Vail Resorts, Brett Grand Vacations, High Country Conservation Center, and others. So it was a very robust stakeholder process. But all that to say, we weren't only talking about phasing out plastic bottles as part of that, right? It was a much broader, long-range sustainability plan. So here we are today. This is second reading. After first reading, there was some concerns related to the single-use condiments. And so we have made those changes as recommended by council. There was also some comments related to allowing for plastic lids on to-go cups. We've also made those changes. And we are, let's see, I want to make sure that I highlight these stakeholders who have submitted public comment up to this point. So for the record, we have received comments from Beaver Run, City Market, EcoCycle, Colorado Beverage Association, the Association of Plastic Recyclers, the Wine Institute, Distilled Spirits Council, and also State Senators Cutter and Priola, who were the state sponsors of the Extended Producer Responsibility Bill that passed last year. So most of those have been in opposition to the broad definition of plastic beverage containers. But EcoCycle, for example, had contacted us to support the single-use plastic provisions related to food serviceware. So with that, staff is proposing that council adopt on second reading this ordinance tonight. But I would just like to see, Shannon, should we talk about the conversations that we've had and the plan moving forward, or should we?
Let's see
open it
what
up? Okay.
council, let you guys have some
Questions?
discussion. And the only other thing I'll add is we also had a meeting with Swire, Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
Pepsi, and the Colorado Beverage Association. So
How did those go with the Coke and Pepsi?
So Coke and Pepsi were there as part of their membership with the Colorado Beverage Association. They were in strong opposition to the broad definition of plastic beverage containers. They shared with us some sales specific information related to some of their customers here in Breckenridge, specifically 7-Eleven and Loaf and Jug as examples. They also talked to us about how they, what types of capabilities they have to just, I shouldn't say simply, that's not a word they use, but to switch product bottling from one beverage container type to another. And then I'm trying to think if there was.
Did they indicate at all whether they're headed that way or not? I mean, is there a movement towards aluminum in any way with those guys?
my interpretation is that there wasn't a strong push to move in that direction, that they had a goal, and I can't remember which one of them had a goal by 2030 of reducing their use of virgin plastic to 50%. So they're trying to, I think, recycle more plastic, but continue to use plastics. I didn't get the impression they were going to move to aluminum.
Yeah, and Shannon did ask that specific question, and I will say that most of the industry groups that have contacted you were partners in the Extended Producer Responsibility Bill, including Senators Cutter and Priola, who were the sponsors of the bill. And I think there's a strong push from these groups to go all in on EPR and ensure that they are recovering the plastics that are out there in order to improve their supply chain and their recyclability of their products. Having said that, EPR does not go into effect until 2026. They are in the process now of standing up the Producer Responsibility Organization, which will be made up of those producers who are then responsible for paying a fee based on the types of products that they produce. And that fee goes to fund a statewide recycling program. So we should see the benefits of that at the community level in terms of lowering or reducing our recycling costs. But that does nothing for the overall plastic demand, right? So plastic plastic demand is expected to continue to increase. But the goals of these organizations is to try and recover more and to improve their packaging so they're able to include more of the recycled product in their packaging. And so I think there's a strong partnership and coalition from these groups to make sure that they're protecting that feedstock.
So do we have any sense, if we do this, pass it as is, will this move the needle at all to motivate them to move more beverages to a aluminum container or a carton container, whatever? Or will they just say, well, this is just one enlightened port in a, in a ocean of islands and not do anything different? And we'll just have a lack of inventory on our shelves. I mean, how do you see this playing out after 18 months and a day?
So I don't want to speak for those groups because I do not know how they would respond to that. I think our intent is that if we so we can lean on our plastic bag ban because we can see that the numbers have decreased. We've seen an improvement in, not only the number of bags that people were choosing not to use under the bag fee, but then also once we banned it, we saw a significant decrease in overall bags that were being used in general, including paper. And so we can lean on that and say truthfully that it did have a reduction in our local plastic. Now, how those stores and products choose to shift and offer other products, I can't speak for them.
Has this been done any other place that we can use as a?
So the primary bans on plastic beverage bottles have been around water. So Telluride, for example, is the most recent, single use. Go ahead.
No, you're right. But I just want to clarify, we wouldn't even know from Telluride because it's not effective until 2024.
Thank you. Yeah, so they use the same approach as we are, except their definition was very specific to single-use water bottles. Our definition is more broad than that.
But there are other communities across the nation that have enacted plastic bans. And I know the National Park Service recently banned single-use plastic bottles. Is that in effect yet, or it hasn't quite gone into effect yet?
The National Park Service is actually a really good question. I think they have started their phase out, but I don't know that for a fact. Other cities that have plastic bag bans that come to mind, I said bags, I meant plastic water bottle bans. San Francisco, Seattle being another one, I believe.
But those are specific to water.
They are specific to water.
How about the Park Service? Is that specific to water or is that as broad as we are?
I
I think it was
Yeah.
single-use plastic.
I don't know.
But they don't have a whole lot of retail, in the
Right.
national parks.
But another thing, we are on the front end of this curve because pre-last legislative session, this wasn't even an option. So in Colorado, we don't have
Okay. so-
many communities we can look towards.
And definitely no one else in the county is considering this.
Frisco is.
Oh, they are doing pretty much the same comprehensive.
They have their first work session on March 12th. So
What unintended consequences do you foresee happening with a full container ban versus specifically water?
I think one is, maybe this is the flip side of what you might be getting after, Jay, but if you're just going after water and the intent is the plastic pollution, the local litter pollution, the plastic in the dust on snow, that was just a news report from 2 days ago. Basically, the plastic everywhere is that you're not getting at all the plastic, right? So if you're just targeting water bottles, like, are you potentially doing enough? On the flip side of that, consumer behavior, right? What if somebody wants a quick beverage and they go into a 7-Eleven, for example, and they don't have a plastic water bottle or a plastic soda bottle, they might choose another quick option instead of what we would hope is people are going towards a reuse model, or they're buying larger bulk product and using more of that. Like we would want people to go towards more bulk and more reuse. Now, have we stood up a lot of reuse programs here? Not yet. That's another policy and programmatic thing that we need to be doing in conjunction with this. We have invested a lot in our town facilities for reuse stations. We've encouraged a lot of that. Our Welcome Center has a program where they provide reusable water bottles and tell people where they can access water and talk about how our water is safe to drink. So I think there's a programmatic aspect to this that needs to go along with it. And so I can't predict what every consumer is going to do, but they are going to make different choices, whether those choices are on, the reuse or the bulk, or they just shift to another single-use product. There is certainly concern that might happen. And that's what we were seeing and hearing in some of the comments from the folks in opposition.
And I guess less on the consumer behavior, but the manufacturer behavior to the senator's points of maybe perhaps having the containers be more damaging or take up a bigger carbon footprint. Of how can we get ahead of that? And then, just kind of as a follow-up, why are we stopping at beverages? Why not do shampoos and olive oils and yogurts and all plastic from grocery store? What's the obstacle of including that in this ordinance?
Wow. Yeah, that's it. Those are both great questions. So to the first point, I can point to several life cycle analysis on materials and products that say something different than another life cycle analysis that somebody else provides me. And I think there's a lot of nuance and local information that can play a role in what products are better than other products. For example, glass is often looked at as a heavier packaging material. It takes more greenhouse gas emissions to transport it long distances, but glass is one of the only materials that we can recycle and reproduce into new products in Colorado. So the programs like we have, for example, the glass depots that keep glass out of the single stream, our glass, we know locally goes to Rocky Mountain Bottle Companies down in Golden, and those products are reproduced bottle to bottle. So the impact of that program makes glass fairly attractive in Colorado, but that might not be the case in another state, for example. So when you look at the national reports and information, you're looking at it in aggregate and you're not getting that the local programming and the local information that helps us make these decisions. So there are certainly other types of single-use products that could be more detrimental than plastic, but there's also the benefit to the community around what you guys are trying to do. And that is, promoting local water, promoting local recycling, reducing litter at the source, et cetera. And now that I said all that, I forgot your second question.
Why stop at beverages?
Why stop at that? Also a great question. I mean, I think ultimately in my world, we don't have as many available products out there to choose from, but that's not how the world works. So, plastics at the end of the day, I would like, I think that it would be important to reduce as much as possible and to make every single plastic package out there on the market 100% recyclable. And frankly, made from 100% recycled material. And we're nowhere near that. We have too many different types of plastics. We have too many different package molds and models that don't fit into a common, efficient recycling system. There's a lot of problems with plastic. And so I think at the end of the day, in a perfect world, we would have shelves that, fruit isn't packaged in plastic, fruit is packaged in its own wrapper. Like, can we go back to that? But cold medicine came up the other day. Actually, somebody was like, does this mean the cold medicine is going to go away? And so I think there's certainly some basic needs of things like medicine, milk, infant formula, things that we have excluded from this bill that don't have another option today that are essential. And I think that in this case, we have perfectly good water here in Breckenridge that people can use, and that we're talking about products that are not essential to human health and basic need. These are consumer choices, and we are trying to encourage different packaging related to that.
And Jesse, I fully agree with you on the waterfront, 100%. I think the old adage is like the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time, and trying to take methodical steps to accomplish a goal. And just looking at moving above and beyond just the water process, have we spoken to stakeholders specifically, whether it is City Market or the local market or Loaf and Jug or Food Kingdom, of what it's going to do, what kind of burden it's going to place on them, as well as our residents, in higher costs, having to source things that all come in aluminum or glass?
So we have not had a local business roundtable or discussion as a group, as a retail group, for example. During our Sustainable Breck outreach, we did talk to various groups that had, some of them had business interests, and at our public workshops, we certainly had some businesses that were there. Many of our local businesses have already opted to source from other types of packaging, which is kudos to them. They have either seen this or heard the discussion at council, or have just chosen from a sustainability perspective to make different product choices. Aluminum is more expensive and is not as readily available. Well, I should step back,
Not all
actually.
products.
Yeah, not in all products, right? So if you're looking at water is the common example, right? So a plastic water bottle might be around $1.50, and you might see an aluminum water bottle something like $3.50. But a can of Coke, for example, is less expensive than a bottle of Coke at 7-Eleven. So I think there are some product nuances there. And certainly there will be an impact in terms of purchasing, which is why back when we hosted Mountain Towns 2030, we talked a lot to, you guys had the presentation from Boomerang Water. And then we also had Mananalu Water was a sponsor of the Mountain Towns event. And so we talked to them about their experience in other communities as well. And they're seeing that their costs are they're not price parity, but they're coming down because their demand is going up, right? So there's this initial cost differential, and that delta is changing as demand increases.
Is aluminum, I am under the impression that it's much more easily recyclable than plastic.
Aluminum is one of the most recycled products. It is 100% recyclable and it can be made into the same product over and over and over again. So can glass.
Now, if we, because my big concern initially on this thing was the single-use water bottles that you see at like City Market or whatever, and people packing up a shopping cart with them. And I think that industry is a little bit closer to providing a viable alternative with aluminum. Do we have any idea what the price difference would be? Like right now as we speak, as opposed to something, because I don't, I honestly think that, it's gonna take a while to re-educate the public that that tap water isn't good to drink, even in a place like this where it's probably healthier than the stuff they pay for. But do we have an idea of initially if the price difference, what the delta will be between, these single-use water bottles if they go to a plastic single-use container
From plastic to
to
aluminum.
aluminum, you mean? Yeah.
So I just gave the example of a single bottle. I don't know. Are you talking about cases? I don't know the.
Oh, so you're talking about, I thought you were talking about one of those multi-use bottles that come with a cap that you buy, that like this, that you refill. I'm talking about the ones that, that they're wrapped in plastic, they're in a store, they're cans, like we use at a lot of our events. We don't have plastic water bottles anymore. We have water cans,
Right.
which I'm assuming are, single-use water cans. They are more easily recyclable. But I just wonder what the price, if there is a price difference that you're aware of initially.
Yeah, so an aluminum, so a single-use plastic water bottle or a single-use aluminum water
Yep,
bottle.
yep.
There is a price differential. Yeah, so the aluminum one is more expensive.
Is that the one you said the aluminum is $3.50 and the other one's like $1.79 or something?
Mhm,
Okay.
exactly. Sorry, I don't know what the case, like if you were to buy a case.
No,
of
I'm
that, I
not,
don't-
I'm just trying to figure out the difference. And that's just initially down, with economy of scale, that price of aluminum single-use bottles will go down.
Yeah, I mean, ideally based on demand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you have to think aluminum cans, the economies are already there.
Yes.
With all the beer and sodas and
Right.
everything that are sold in cans. So I think it's just gearing up to do aluminum bottles.
Right.
That's gonna be a
Right.
pain threshold. Period of time.
Jesse, I think the feedback we've had from those big organization has been great. I think we have things in second reading that made it stronger, the condiments, the infant formula. Other than the restaurant association, or maybe that as an example, what feedback have you heard from local businesses that aren't 7-Eleven or Loaf of Jug that have a big arm and big supply chain consideration, but are local businesses that order from United or Cisco or?
So Beaver Run and City Market have been the two that have reached out in opposition. The City Market folks are the government affairs. We did speak locally with our local Breck City Market during the Sustainable Breck process. But it sounds like they might not be on the same page there. So related to small businesses like on Main Street, for example, we have not had any feedback either way on this. We did speak to the Restaurant Association about a potential plastic bottle ban. I want to say, I don't have the date of that. I want to say last fall, maybe right around Mountain Towns. They didn't provide us any input either way. Now granted, restaurants aren't always, they're not the convenience stores, for example. So we do have, depending on how this discussion goes tonight, we have set up two small business roundtables, one in early March, just in 2 weeks, and one in early April, to better understand, what that means. When we had our first work session here with the council, staff was given direction to bring this ordinance forward as proposed. And because of the lead time to July 1st, 2024, we felt like we had enough time to refine that definition if it wasn't where we wanted it to be after tonight. So that was a particular policy strategy, I guess. But certainly we are, poised to talk to small businesses between now and then, actually sooner rather than later, honestly. Make sure that we get that right.
Jesse, isn't Beaver Run is probably like in a partnership with Coke or Pepsi, one of those?
I believe they are a partner with Coke.
So I guess I'm just trying to
I'm not
picture
sure.
here, like what at Beaver Run are they selling that they can't get in a can? Are there like small juices or like something, because it seems like everything.
Well, I
Mm.
think, they have the cafeteria at the base of Scuria, and they sell a ton of plastic bottles of sodas and water and everything else.
But soda is all available in a can, Gatorade's all available in the can, water is all available in the can. So I'm just trying to figure out like, what is the big problem? I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm just really trying to figure out like, what is the stumbling block here?
Yeah, unfortunately, is Bob here?
Someone-
Is it, hey Kelly,
Yeah,
is it worth us having those roundtables with those entities before we pass this? I mean, I love that we're pushing the envelope here, right? Like I want to be a leader when it comes to all of the sustainability pieces. And I love the water in aluminum. I think that one's a little easier for me. I worry similar to what Jeffrey had said about, 7-Eleven having bare shelves and that kind of experience. So I wonder if it makes sense to have the round table to try and get some buy-in from the Beaver Runs and city markets so that we're, instead of us saying, hey, you have to do this, them saying, and all of us saying like, hey, we work together to do this together is just one thought.
I couldn't agree with Todd more on his comments and the fact that this ordinance, we could pass tonight with inserting, the in the page 2, line 16, that a plastic beverage container means a water beverage or beverage water container, less than half. And I guess maybe I would even lean on Kirsten a little bit of what is better government and what is a better process of passing something that we have vetted and that is pretty bulletproof of a plastic water ban, or to pass something more generic and then go back and edit it and revise it and change it and have a little bit more uncertainty. I know, obviously I know I'm leading a little bit there, but to me, it feels that with this deadline or this date of inception being 15 months out, that we can still do further engagement outside of water, pass this tonight with it water, do further engagement with other beverages, understand better what's not available in cans, and really have a strong idea of where it's going, and maybe even pass this another ordinance, 3, 6, 9 months that has the same date or whatever we find from our due diligence. And, my biggest worry through all of this is thinking about our workforce that's living in Alta Verde right now at 60% AMI. And now when they go to the store, they're not buying bottles of water. They're doing the same thing as we all are, but they're paying 20, 30, 200% more for their orange juice or their lemonade or their iced tea or whatever it might be, because of this ordinance that has been vetted in as a small part of a giant, proposal or agenda. And I think that this may have gotten lost when going through that sustainability process.
I think, while I don't disagree that there could be a good way to kind of phase in that. I feel like there's a lot of buy-in on the water and there's really no reason to hold that up. I'm wondering actually if, we're hearing from some of these big manufacturers and they're making money in plastic. I mean, it's interesting to me that we haven't heard much from our local community. And I'm very curious and hopeful that that's because, like Jesse said, so many of them are already choosing to have glass and aluminum because that's what they stand for in their stores. So I do wonder if during the roundtables that it's going to come out that there is a lot of local buy-in for this. And, you know, that would be ideal, right? Is that
Right, I think that we'll hear it when the price increases go up and the selection decreases and they have to take a bus to Frisco to purchase things because it's more expensive. I don't think the foresight or the knowledge is there quite yet, knowing the ramifications of things that may happen if this ordinance passes. And I believe that's why we haven't heard from the small business owners or the residents that would be impacted most by it, because it hasn't happened. They won't see it for 15 months. And at that point, we'll hear it and it will impact their lives.
But I mean, I guess I feel like I'm sure that's true, but there are options. There are options, you know, we're not, there are lots of things that are available in cans or tap water. I guess I do hear what you're saying is like, this is probably going to change some consumer products that are available in Breckenridge. But I think that's the point. Like, we are trying to help people be incentivized to make more sustainable choices. And while I do hear you, and I certainly never want to lose sight of, you know, a financial impact to our community. We want to know what that is. We don't want to go in, you know, and just swoop in without having done our research. But I do believe that sometimes the price is necessary in order to encourage people to make the more sustainable choice.
Jay, I appreciate what you're saying. And we talked just right before the meeting about this, so it's been quick thought. But my feeling is, you know, it's kind of horse and cart, you know, chicken egg discussion. It's when I hear that the Pepsis and the Cokes are really making no action towards aluminum, and they are just, you know, making lots of action around continuing with plastic, that compels me to pass this as is, because I think small communities, we need to start with bold moves and courageous moves to push the industry, open these guys' eyes that this is a reality, that there's communities out there passing it. I'm certain that other ski towns in the state will pay attention if this passes, if we pass this. And I suspect we'll have others get on board. And I think that's what it is going to take to get these large corporations to start moving away from plastic. Otherwise, I have low confidence they ever will, because the margins are probably always going to be better with plastic, and that's what's going to drive them. You know, they'll have a PR department in a public, you know, and that'll say all the right stuff. But, you know, I really feel like we need to be a leader in this and go forward. You continue to listen, continue to do roundtables. But I think we need to send a strong message that we're very, very concerned about plastics and plastic pollution, and we're willing to make a bold move and be a leader.
And I don't disagree with you. I think that I have the same goal of being a cutting edge community, and my goal is the same in the fact that I want to be a case study of what to do. I don't want it to have the opposite and worse reaction of being a case study of what not to do. And for there to be on 9 News scanning around City Market shelves and seeing them empty and seeing guests being upset and seeing, you know, interviews with residents saying that it costs them so much more, where maybe the $1.50 doesn't matter to us, but it sure matters to the people living in Alta Verde. And I don't want anyone from Frisco or Dillon to Cape Cod or Seattle using us as an example of what not to do because we screwed the pooch and went too aggressive with too broad of a stroke and weren't tactical enough to realize that we take on the first thing that's a huge, that Jeffrey has identified as a problem for years now. Let's take that down and observe and see what's changing, have more conversations. You look at, I went through City Market today just to see, and there's a full aisle, both sides, water bottles, right? Like that is a huge progress. But then you look at some of the other brands that are in plastics, Suja, Palm, Harmless Harvest coconut water is, Natalie's OJ, Big B's apple juice, Karma Bolt House, which is right here, or was right here in Breckenridge. And these are businesses that we're putting undue stress on and saying, for 15 months, you have to change your packaging. It's not that agile. It's not that quick. And to think that PepsiCo or Keurig Dr. Pepper or Coca-Cola is going to change their entire bottling practice for a town of 4,500, I think we have a little more work to do.
And I agree with you on that, Jay. I don't think we're going to change the habits of these massive corporations, but I'm pointing back to our sustainable BRAC plan, our climate action plan. And one of our measurable targets is waste reduction. And we can pat ourselves on the back for the plastic bag ban, but if we look at the landfill, that is a fraction of the propagation of plastic. What is the issue is single-use plastic bottles. And I think what makes me okay with this, knowing there's alternatives, but also identifying a huge contributor to waste is single use. This is a targeted ordinance on single use plastic. And I think that is what makes me support it and want to go a little past water, because a Coke bottle, what's the end result? It's likely the same propagation of waste in our landfill. The one part I would like a little more vetted is hearing from our small businesses. I think the next step that was talked about, the roundtables with small businesses, we should be nimble. We should make modifications if necessary. But I think this general direction, it is ahead of the curve, as we talked about, because we just were given this tool because of state law, but other communities are doing this. I don't think it's extremely cutting edge. It's an identified step in reducing our waste.
No other communities doing above and beyond water.
I think there are. The national park, you mentioned Cape Cod. I feel like I read an article about Cape Cod or some of those communities there banning single-use plastic.
All right. So what if we do if it's a tie? Todd, do you have anything else you want to add to this?
I do, thank you. And Jay, it's been interesting because I'm wrestling here with this whole concept. I think most of us are in agreement that we want to be bold and be a leader when it comes to this. And I think passing this would certainly put some pressure on a lot of different folks that rely on single-use bottles. Part of me likes that, with kind of a bias towards action to kind of almost light the fire under them. But I do worry about being effective. And I think if we pass this tonight as is, we would, and it sounds like, Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've got some roundtables set up for March.
Yeah, we have not promoted it based on the outcome of this discussion, but we have the dates and times booked and we're ready to go.
Okay. I mean, I like that. And I'm struggling here with, is it be bold and then make folks react and get this as a marker out here and then adjust? Or do we split it out, just do water now with a commitment to each other to look at the other beverages and try and keep it on a similar timeline? I think it's important that we're leaders here. So I'm struggling with the right course here, but know that I want to be bold with what we're doing.
Maybe Kirsten, do you want to weigh in on if there's a more appropriate way for us to do this?
So I guess you have three options and I don't know at what point we want to cut it off and then talk about it more tonight, but the options would be, I think, the easiest and cleanest from a drafting perspective so that we don't step into some other unintended consequence would be to pull out the two provisions that don't come into effect until July 2024. I don't know that that fixes the single-use water bottle issue, though. You could pass it on second reading, and then we could continue to have discussions like we've been saying. Or there was a third option, which is to try to tailor this just to water bottles. And I'm not sure how quickly we can get that, if we can generate that for tonight. We have talked about doing early stakeholder outreach in the future. We'll plan to send drafts to these large industries. We never need to take their feedback, but sometimes it can educate us to things. I mean, we're a small group of people and we can't always think of everything. So that's for the future. But for tonight, I think we just need to pick one of the three paths and just continue to have the discussions with the interested parties locally and more largely. I don't know if that's helpful.
It is.
I guess the other thing that's important for you guys to know, because we don't have Eric today, is that if you vote on it and you're split, it fails. So it would be good if you all could come to, we land on this one way or the other, because I think certainly everyone wants the other provisions of the bill to go forward.
Yeah.
And I would encourage us to pass it with it amended as water bottles tonight. Get that done. And then let's ask Rick or Shannon to put it on work session for other beverages, where let's move forward as a united front on the water bottles. And we can still send the message to our beverage, purveyors, distributors, manufacturers, and go about this in a way that we know that is going to be strategic and good government, of passing things that we know that are accomplishable and will move the ball forward, and be diligent and strategic about that next phase.
So the only thing I'll just to sort of highlight on what Kirsten said is that adding to the ordinance, the water bottle piece is a little bit more dicey, just because she doesn't have a lot of time to go through and make sure that, right, it's not like just inserting water bottle would not be.
It sounds like option
Jesse, is
3
that
is
true?
an option. So 1 or 2.
It's just more difficult.
Yeah.
Page
They-
2, line 16, right? Don't we just, wouldn't it just be one word adding into that?
I am looking.
Do we have a feel for where we're at? I mean, it seems like Dick and Kelly, you guys are good as is. Jeffrey, Carol, what's your take? I'd love to know where we're sitting, if that's appropriate to ask.
I support this as written.
You know what? I have been going 180 on this all day long. This is my baby, to get rid of plastic water bottles, single-use plastic water bottles. That's, Kelly's childcare. Carol's knocking down the prairie forest, and I'm plastic water bottles. I'm very torn about this, just because of this, there's so much I don't know. I think if I had to vote right now, I'd as I'm stuttering right now, I still don't know, but I think I'd support it. I think I'd support it as is, just unless we can find a clean way to make it, to give it to tonight, do it just as, the single-use water bottles, kind of like what Jay was saying, but immediately look into how we can keep going to all plastic bottles that are less than a half gallon. So I think right now it looks to me it's 3-3.
Well, that would be 4 and 2.
4 and 2.
But your preference is the water bottles. That's still, I didn't hear a final of that. Is that something we could do for tonight or not?
I think that it's a little more complicated. We're gonna have to pull out the plastic beverage container. And then I think strike the C and D under the bans. Those are the July 2024, and then add back in a new provision to ban plastic water bottles. Can I just make one point? I can do it. We're doing it fast and there might be another issue around it. None of this can be effective until 2024. So we could pull out the 2 July dates, pass it on second reading, and then come back and add water bottles and delay the others, which would be perfect and clean. But if you want to quickly try to turn a draft of water bottles, I will try to do that.
Maybe Jesse, that'd be helpful to hear if we pull out all the June or
July 2020.
by 2024 provisions. What type of staff time would it take to have these roundtables then come back, I guess, with adding those in?
The timetable that we just have tentatively out there, the second roundtable. So the first one we scheduled for March, recognizing it's spring break, like right in the middle of ski season. So we wanted to make sure that we circled back when it was slower. So really it would be, at the earliest, probably the first meeting in May after we have these roundtables as scheduled. We could accelerate that process, but we wanted to be mindful of the season.
I think either way, the time frame is the same. If you pass it as written, we're still gonna do that work and it'd still be May before we bring back changes. If you take that stuff out, we're still on the same.
So we could still make the July 1, 2024, where for the plastic water bottles for sure, and then some other single-use drink containers as well, if we can get that in order.
Yeah, I just hearing from what the product manufacturers are saying related to that, they felt like they were already behind the curve with that 2024 timeframe. So yes, it still gives them over a year in our minds, but they were already concerned with that timeframe. So
The longer we give them.
the longer we give them, the better. And maybe the more amicable they are, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much give they have available. I'm talking about the large industry folks, not necessarily the small business.
Which way would you vote, Jeffrey?
I think I will pass it as is.
I think we got 4 of them.
Todd, where are you?
I think I'm good passing as is. I hear everything Jay's saying. I like the idea of being bold and putting pressure on these manufacturers and companies to step it up. And Kelly, I know that's the conversation we had earlier today. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of value in putting pressure on folks, and then we're gonna have to be nimble and adjust if we get input that there's turbulence with that. And I think, yeah, I like leading. So let's lead. I'm in.
All right. Do we need to add anything in there that says we will be looking more in depth at the non-water, or that just complicates things? We just know that we're going to.
Add anything to the bill, but I think it's perfectly fine for you all as you discuss it and make your vote tonight to express that.
Okay.
Feeling.
And then be very transparent during the roundtables that we do want to hear their concerns.
So just for the record, the first roundtable is scheduled for Tuesday, March 14th in the morning. We'll look to serve breakfast for folks. And then also the second one is currently scheduled for I had the date wrong originally, excuse me, Tuesday, April 11th. So those are the 2 upcoming small business roundtables. We will be reaching out to our business community.
Okay. All right. I've totally blown the agenda, so.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, Kelly.
Time. Okay.
Tax code bag fee exemption, second reading.
Well, So this is a change to the tax code that just ensures that the carryout bag fee moving forward is not taxed. It hasn't been in the past, but it was listed under the bag fee provisions. It should be under the tax code.
Any discussion? No.
I'm discussed out.
Thank you. Thanks, Jesse. All right, James and water backflow penalty ordinance, second reading.
Good afternoon. The bill for second reading in front of you this evening will amend Title 12, Chapter 3 of the Municipal Water Service. There has been one change since the first reading, and this was to address a sentence in there that was a little bit confusing as it kind of related to the responsible party. So that sentence, it was on page 3, line 29, has been deleted as part of this second reading and as part of this amendment for this ordinance.
Yeah, and thank you for looking into that and making that change.
Okay,
Any other discussion? Questions?
sweet, thank you.
Site host agreement and easement for Excel owned DC fast chargers and EV supply infrastructure at BGVCC, second reading.
All right, Mayor and Council, so this is the second reading for the bill for authorizing the town manager to enter the service agreement with Excel and provide the accompanying easement, allowing them to install and maintain EV supply infrastructure and the Excel owned DC fast chargers at the Breckenridge Grand Vacations Community Center. There's been no changes since first reading, and I'm available for any questions.
Questions? Thanks, Teddy. The amendments to policy 3A, 3R, density updates.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council. We are here for the first reading of the policy 3A, 3R density updates. As you all recall, we got rid of mass last November, so these are just additional cleanups and clarifying code language. We wanted to add the two things we've talked about, the 500 square foot bonus for market rate carriage houses in the Wellington, and then we wanted to add the exemption for garages and sheds in the historic district. So this is just adding those two exemptions. And then we also wanted to mention, we clarified some of the language that controls above ground density outside the historic district. So it's basically kind of a grandfathering clause. We just strengthened the language, making sure that a homeowner can't do a bonus exemption again. It's kind of underneath that old table we had in there. So also just to clarify for everybody, since this is kind of layering on top of a pretty recent code amendment, all the underlined and crossouts are not new. So then I just highlighted in gray for readability what we were actually doing on this density change. Yeah, so happy to take any questions or comments on this first reading.
Thanks for doing this. Any questions? Comments? Discussion? No?
Okay.
Looks like it's perfect.
Great. Yay. We made it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, amendments to policy 9112 amendments, non-conforming updates.
So this one, we've kind of talked about it together, but they are two separate code sections, so it's a separate
Oh,
bill
that's right.
for the first reading. So this was just kind of council's request to strengthen the language for nonconformities. So basically the biggest changes were changing the term from may be able to rebuild to shall be able to rebuild. So those changes are in your packet, and we're happy to take any questions on those.
Yeah, that was good. That's a big change and something Eric's been pushing for a long time. I think we should call this Eric's bill.
All right, any discussion?
Shell's good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris? Gondola Lots Master Plan Extended Vesting Development Agreement, first reading.
All right, well, good afternoon. We have a bill for you tonight that would present a development agreement between BGV and the town to extend the Gondola Lots Master Plan by 6 months to May 23rd, 2025. And then also have an option for an additional extension of 6 months by affirmative vote of the council prior to the expiration of the previous extension. For community benefit, based on council feedback, for the first 6 months, it would be $100,000 capital contribution toward either a new in-town childcare center or in addition to an existing in-town childcare center. If the extension was granted for another 6 months, then an additional $100,000 would have to be contributed to the same for the same fund. I want to point out within the development agreement, we wrote specifically between the town and BGV, or I guess the entity of BGV that owns or controls the properties. So it wouldn't be able to be extended. They wouldn't be able to sell that property or development rights and then have an extension.
Does BGV, did they close on those properties?
Right
Because
now,
their owner.
I actually looked at that today as I was writing a staff report, but it still shows that Vale is the owner. And
Contingent
yeah,
contract.
so I'm not exactly sure, but sometimes there's a lag time also within the reporting.
Yeah. Because that might be a substantial, word in there, in the development agreement.
Yeah, we can, I'm looking up where we have it in the agreement. I guess we could review it to make sure that it's not written for, if they're not the owner yet, but basically as the applicant or something to that effect. But I can
Right.
work with Kirsten on that to make sure that we have that correct. Yeah, basically it says it's section 5 of the agreement. This agreement shall be exclusive to the developer and does not run with the title to the property to successors or assigns. And we identified upfront that Gondola Properties LLC, which is BGV, as the developer. So I'm not sure that, I think that we're covered either way, even though it's basically a development agreement between the town and BGV's entity, and not, it says it's not attached to the ownership of the land.
Yeah. I still think it's something we need to know. I mean,
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, I think this is pretty much what we talked about and agreed to.
And I had a question about the 100,000. So if a center does a renovation, it's a capital project, could the 100,000 go towards a renovation?
I think as it's written now, it's an addition, because I think the intent was to provide additional space compared to what we have currently. I mean, I guess like if you had a renovation that was deemed to make the building
Serve more kids?
serve more kids or something like that, then I guess that would be a little bit of an argument, but I think the intent was to increase capacity of students.
It's to increase capacity, right? But we agreed last time that that meant an addition or a new facility. So I think
The
what you're-
renovation would
Yeah.
count as.
as
that?
long as it's like an addition that adds more students.
Uh-huh.
I think Carol's,
We're doing it Timberline.
yeah, I think Carol's question though is if they just did a renovation, they weren't adding on to the building, would it count?
As long as you're adding more students, I think.
Okay. Can we just clarify that we have that flexibility?
I think we could change the language to say add capacity or add,
A project that adds capacity or something
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, we talked about that last time and Dudek said he was fine with it. So I don't think really there's too much clarification that needs to happen, but if there's language that needs to be changed. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Thanks, Chris.
all right, thank you.
Kirsten, Valley Brook Cemetery Operations Ordinance, first reading.
Yes,
Ellen?
Mayor, Council, it's both of us here. So Helen's team brought to our attention that we needed to update the cemetery rules and regulations. In the process, we discovered that the bill to kind of authorize all of it hadn't been adopted. So this is cleanup, Jeffrey.
Housekeeping.
And we recommend that you approve it, and we're going to come behind with the notice for the rulemaking. Let me know if you have any questions.
Anything else, Helen? You know, no questions?
No.
Sure.
I'm gonna be cremated. I'm not gonna, it really bother me what to do with that place.
Great to know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. 2023 budget appropriations.
Get cremated, but have a little spot where people can come visit. Just do sprinkle on the ground.
I'm gonna get cremated and have Alan sprinkle my ashes on your carpet.
Here's our
And then back it
pause.
up. You listen to.
No.
listen to-
So it was hilarious. Hey, Dave.
Hey, how y'all doing today? Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
How you doing, Dave?
Good. Want to go through with you changes to our 23 budget since November of last year. What triggered this was the pay change that occurred at the end of December with the $3 increase across the board. And of course, that impacts every fund. And then just going through the 2022 close process, we started looking at things that did not get completed in 22 that would roll over into 23. And the result is a much more extensive list of items for the 23 budget than I originally had thought would happen back in a month or two ago. Just in general, I'm going to go through the various funds, but in an overall perspective, for the town, the pay change and the impacted increase on taxes as well is about $1.3 million. So that has been added to all the various funds for the town. So, and those are listed out in the items there. One other item with regard to workers' comp and liability insurance, hazard insurance, we updated the allocations with more correct, up-to-date information for the funds of how we would allocate those bills. And so there are changes within the funds related to the allocations that we're doing for those expenses. And basically that results in from more up-to-date information of where we're having claims. And more claims in a particular fund, more expense they get related to that. So that's what that is. So outside of those two items, we're going to start with the general fund. We basically, the first item I have is town hall upgrades. We did not have that in the budget. And that's related to the chairs behind me. And then the security card system access control for the town. So 48,000 for that on the chairs and 84,000 for upgrading the access control in this building. So that is a proposal to put into the budget. On the grant side, there was an approval last council session for the FERC. So of $100,000. So we added that. And then we looked at the nicotine legislation of how much money we need to set aside for grants based upon the funding. Shannon, I hope I'm saying this correctly. And that resulted in $100,000 increase that we need to make appropriations for in 2023 with regards to the funding we receive on the nicotine tobacco tax.
And that's for programs, cessation programs and nicotine programs, and it's based on our amount of sales as compared to the rest of the county. So just take it and divvy it up. And because our sales were higher at the end of 2022 than we had originally thought they would be, we have a higher percentage of the cost for those programs, cessation programs. So that's why it was a little bit higher. But we had more revenue, so.
Yeah. Okay, on utility fund, the main thing regarding this is really timing of the Tarn Dam project. So based upon what we completed at the end of the year and what we expect to spend in 2023, we made some adjustments related to that. We added revenue of about 550 grand. And we also added expense as well for the Tarn Dam for around 700,000. Some of that is related to the pipe issue that occurred which is caused expenses to increase for 2023 related to that. That was not necessarily in the original budget that was submitted. The other item is an accounting item. So the money we pay for the water treatment plant, the way we budgeted, which was fine. We put that payment of that loan, if you will, into the utility fund. However, the principal piece on the accounting side goes to the loan, which is on the balance sheet. So that is a correction that we made. I added that to restrictions, just so we're not overstating the utility fund balance. So we're basically just correcting an item there from that perspective, but it has a zero impact after restrictions. It's more of a reclass.
You're on it, Dave.
So on capital, a lot of ins and outs with capital. Block 11 true up. So basically, after auditing the expenses for block 11 and the expenses that are going to occur in 2023 for block 11 to finalize that project, the housing fund is allocating money over to the capital fund to help offset that expense. Sustainability fund. So we, as a part of this process, we worked with Jesse to create a sustainability fund. It's now Fund 19. Sustainability used to be inside Fund 17, which was parking and transportation. So I never understood that. So we pulled it out and it's its own fund now. And with that being said, sustainability is now funding the capital projects for sustainability. And that's what that revenue item represents there, which is about 1.6 million. And on the parking and transportation side, we just had a minor adjustment of reconciling 2022 versus what we had anticipated in 22 and from a rollover perspective, and we made a slight reduction in that allocation. And then on excise fund, basically we ended up in a favorable position in the ending balance for 22, which allowed us to not transfer as much over, if you will, from the capital fund. So the capital fund ended up in a better spot, even after reconciling the projects that are rolled over for 22, and it allowed us not to transfer as much over. When we did the budget, we had about a 500 grand target at the end of the 23 for the capital fund left over. And that basically is where we're still sticking with this new appropriation. So that includes all the projects that rolled over from 2022 that we thought we would get done, but now rolled over into 23. So we're trued up there. We also have on the expense side, the block 11 true up, which I mentioned, $2 million. The rec center swimming pool that was approved. So we added another 500,000 for that and around $3 million for all the projects that rolled over from that were scheduled to be done in 22. So that's the capital fund. Golf is relatively one thing is the irrigation project. So we rolled that over. Not everything got completed by the end of the year. So the extra, 200 grand, give or take, is needed to complete that project in 2023 in the first quarter or second quarter. The excise fund, we talked a little bit about some of the things happening within the capital fund side. One of the things I added to the budget was the investment interests we're making. So we've done some updated investments, as you will, for 23. That's going to yield about 3 million more in interest for the town based upon what's going on. That was not in the original budget. In the original budget, we had about 1 million. So we should get about 4 million in interest now for 2023. So we updated that revenue side for that. We are updating the affordable housing loan. So we'll talk about that in a little bit with affordable housing, but there was a pro forma done for the affordable housing loan, which basically updated all the projects that we have for 23. So the new 2023 budget for housing is based upon where we are with all the projects that have been approved. And with that being said, to get the affordable housing to be break even, not negative, we needed to bump up the excise fund a little bit to offset that. So that's what that represents. We talked about the sustainability fund. Basically, the excise fund needs to put about $2.5 million over into sustainability. So sustainability will be break even and not lose as a fund. We can't have a fund that loses money. And so, if you want to see what is the town spending on sustainability in 23, think about $2.5 million. That's what that says. And then we had a BREC history projects for the Milne project that were approved and rolled over that were around 1.1 million. Those are prior projects that were approved in 22 that did not get completed. So they're rolling over into 23 plus additional items that were approved afterwards. So that gets that balance to break even there. And we talked about the capital fund transfer. On affordable housing, one of the things we needed to do was reclass the loan restriction that was done in 21. It was coded it was made incorrectly in 21. So we fixed that, which is causing the revenue decrease for the Alta Verde loan. In Alta Verde 2, we had a favorability for a DOLA grant that came through that was not in the budget of about 680 grand. And then just in trying to sync up with Summit County, looking at the Justice Center COP, they're going to pay the half of the debt payments. So we made modifications with the debt revenue that we're going to get from them based upon that. There's other items related to housing quite a bit, but basically we updated there's going to be a new program coming through for proposal for employee down payment assistance program, or I call it housing loan assistance program, but we're looking at that right now to try to enhance that. So we've included that impact of what we think could be the participation on that and the revenue coming in. There is more participation with Summit County on housing helps that we did not have in the budget back in November. So we added the revenue to offset the housing helps expense for that. We talked about the excise fund loan, took care of that. And then we talked about the capital fund transfer. And we also updated the COP payment that we had to do for the Justice Center because it was more than what we had in the budget when we put the budget together. And the last item is we reduced some of the money we were going to put in for the Loge upgrades. It's now 23 and 24. We had most of that happening in 23 when the budget was done. On the restrictions side on housing, we added this because there have been changes. One is Justice Center debt service. You take that increase times 2. So that's about 1.2 million. The Alta Verde loan we talked about, the Alta Verde 2 loan, we moved 2 million that was in 24 into 23. That's a restriction when we do a loan for that. And then we're estimating about maybe 3 loans for the employee housing loan program. So that would be a restriction as well, because that's a loan. That's housing. Any questions on housing? Okay.
I'm waiting for you to get to the cemetery.
Well, there we go. So open space and garage are mainly true ups, IT fund as well, true ups, facilities as well. Nothing really major to call out there. We talked about special projects being in history and the added expense related to that for the Milne projects. Yes, so we do have $86 for cemetery, mainly due to allocations.
But what is liability? Why do we need liability in the cemetery?
There must have been a claim
Oh,
in the
really?
past. Yeah.
Probably from
A stump.
a family member, not from a.
Yeah.
Not from a resident. All right.
Childcare, same thing. It's just really the salary update and liability. And then on parking, most of that was transferring all the items that we had in parking for sustainability over to sustainability. And then on the healthcare plan, it's just an updated of the allocation expense. And then once again, we talked about sustainability with the revenue that's coming in from the transfers and then the expenses we have. We're going to manage the projects on a sustainability with departments. So we'll be able to see how we're performing on the various ordinances that have been passing, but those will be departments within the fund. And that's how we'll be able to track that. And the last one is accommodation unit compliance. So we had delayed revenues. Not everyone paid by December 31st. So we had revenues that came in January of this year. So that increase is representing that flow through of revenue. And then on the flip side, we had more expense primarily for housing helps in 2022, which caused the fund balance to be lower for the accommodation unit compliance fund, which basically reduced our transfer that we're going to be able to make to affordable housing. So that's what that adjustment is. If you look at all of it together, we have around $7 million in expenses we're proposing to add to the budget, and around 6.7 million more in restrictions, and around $4 million more in revenue. And so that gets us at a loss we have revenue now of 186 million, roughly in the 23 budget with this proposal. Expenses is of around 203 million. That's a loss of around 16.5 million. If you look at the cash flow, most of that's the Justice Center project. And the way the accounting works on that is we booked the revenue for that in 2022. We have the expenses happen in 2023, but we have a COP for that. So the cash flow is going to come from the COP to pay those bills. So from a cash flow perspective, we're still around neutral in 2023.
Dave, how are we looking revenue wise versus budget year to date
For
for 23?
For 23, well, we're just closing the books right now. We need to look at sales tax, the accounting side on a couple of things, but outside of that, we're relatively close. Yeah. And you'll see that next council, we'll start reporting monthly on how we're doing the budget. Any questions?
That was a lot of work. Thanks for doing that. That was a lot of money we spent.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
All right. It sounds like we're pretty hard to hear. So if everyone can speak up and speak into your microphones, I think that will help the other council people listening in. TDR prices, Mark?
Good afternoon. We have an intergovernmental agreement with the county regarding TDRs that requires us, when we're setting a price for TDR sales, the methodology for that we adopt that by joint resolution. So we had a good discussion about this back in January with the council. Subsequently, that discussion happened at the BOCC level. I'm pleased to announce that BOCC approved that earlier today. So the new price for TDRs, assuming the council is ready to move forward with this, is $237,070. That price will be adjusted annually every year based on the preceding 7 years of sales of backcountry land, the median sales price for that.
237?
237, yes.
Nice job.
Yeah.
It's great, BOCC.
Yeah.
Approved it.
Mark, how does that work in if a developer wants to do workforce housing, the TDRs are not necessary or they come, how does that process work if a developer in town wants that increased density for workforce housing?
Yeah, good question, Jay. We used to just exempt that altogether. More recently, in the last 10 years or so, since we updated the Joint Upper Blue Plan, we said we need to provide density for that. The way our code works right now, based on direction from the council several years ago, is it's up to your discretion whether you would provide the density for the developer coming in. They can ask and they can say, listen, I'm going to do deed restricted units. And are you willing to provide the density to make that happen for me? Out of the town's pool of density that we own. But it's ultimately the council's decision on a case by case basis whether or not to approve that.
Yep. If we provide density, we tend to do lower AMIs. So.
Anything else? No. All right.
How you feeling?
Great.
You did a 50-kilometer race Saturday.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Holy smokes, you're walking well.
They timed him with a calendar.
Huh?
They timed him with a calendar.
That's how they time me, Jeffrey.
Kirsten, Green Mountain Reservoir Notice Letter.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This is a contract provision that requires that we exercise by letter notifying the federal government that we are exercising a right to extend the term of our contract at Green Mountain Storage or Green Mountain Reservoir for water storage. So we are certainly recommending that we do this because storage is just as important as water, as I've learned in the past year. If you have any questions, let me or James know if James is here.
Questions?
This our last option to renew?
According to Glenn, it's, we can continue to extend.
This goes on for a while.
I've read it line by line and that's his interpretation. So I am going to go with that.
Okay. Moving on to manager's report. Thanks, Kirsten.
So maybe we can run through these pretty quick. Did anybody have any questions on the public projects update? Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Or we can,
We have one question for you.
That's not in the
Oh, yeah.
memo. Excel is open to the idea of demobilizing some of their equipment from the yard by Coin Valley Road over the summer and bring it back next winter. They are requesting to leave the fence up and take all the trailers out.
So it would be the fence and then the sort of piping infrastructure that's like in the ground that would stay, and everything else that you see there would go.
Jim, do you see that? I know it's a 2-year agreement. Do you see that being asked to be extended from 2 years to 5 years to 10 years to whatever?
I don't think so because we need to do the access road that would come right through there. Excel would love to utilize that land for longer, but it doesn't work with our master plan for McCain.
But the need for that, those trucks and those facilities there is not going away anytime soon, is it?
Correct. Excel needs to find a solution to stand up their gas network in the whole mountain region, which that yard is temporarily helping with, but they need to find a permanent solution.
Are they asking anything from town or they're just offering to move those trailers or tanks?
Ask them to move
Oh.
them.
and they said yes, but not the fencing.
They said, may we leave the fence? And we said, we'll consider it. We'll bring it to council.
What do you say?
It is a fair amount of cost, I guess, to take the fence down and
And put it back
reinstall it
up.
again.
I mean, it doesn't really detract from the recycling center's aesthetics. So I'm okay with it.
It's, yeah, just this year.
And I'd also be concerned with all their piping and all of that without the fence protecting.
Would we like them to remove the trailers though?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure. Yeah,
perfect.
for sure.
Thank you.
I don't care.
You've been outvoted.
Okay.
Mobility?
Mobility, please. Eddie?
Matt is
Oh, where'd
not
we all-
feeling great, so Teddy is his stand-in, and I would just say Matt wrote a pretty good memo here, but if you
He did.
guys have any questions.
Keep them to minimum. They're
Attempt to
way
get
off
things
time.
rolling here.
Yeah.
No. Good to see our numbers coming back with the free ride. It's awesome.
And even the usage of the free ride app, is there anything different we do on the gray routes or info partnerships with lodging? Like those numbers are great. And I'm wondering if we can duplicate them anywhere.
I'd have to refer to Matt on that one.
Teddy's just
Okay,
pretty face up
That's
there.
great. That's a nice short answer. Thank you, Teddy. Can we move on?
Updates and Teddy. So do we need to make the decision on the bike racks?
I will say, no decision is needed right now. We're actually looking at a grant opportunity that we'll apply for. So, we're gonna go down that path first and then we'll come back if we don't get it and we need to budget for it.
Thanks. That's even better.
Sounds great. All right. Are you also doing the sustainability plan update? Great.
Just back on the mobility for 1 second, are you all good with what we have for the 10-minute signs? Or did you feel like we needed to add any more?
Yeah, I asked the kind of leadership of the restaurant association, and it was unanimous that they could go. I mean, basically, everybody said people use them as permanent parking anyway. They're never really available.
Okay, so should we
During
keep-
meal times when takeout happens, so.
Do we take keep the 3 signs or just get rid of them all?
The consensus with the group was if town wants to, and we've got a lot of signage up right now. I would
Okay.
say take them down personally.
Okay.
There's one behind Blue River as well. That's a 4th if you're taking down those 3 signs.
Okay.
we take that one down too.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Shannon?
Yep.
Teddy?
Okay, so Ellie, I think you had asked last time about marketing around pay as you throw. So we just included an example of what that campaign will look like through High Country Conservation Center. We're trying to line up the timing of that campaign with the haulers rollout to residents. So it may still be a few months closer to April, May that we start being more vocal on that front. But that's kind of the update there for Pay As You Throw. REMP, Jesse took that to Planning Commission last Tuesday, got some good feedback. We'll probably go back to at least one more additional Planning Commission meeting before coming back to you guys. Solarized Summit is underway. We've got 13 residents from Breckenridge who have so far signed up for assessments. And those are going well. If anyone has any questions about that.
What was the point in the program requires contracts signed by May 31?
I think it's just the solar installation season and trying to get everyone, signed up so that we also have a set aside number of, I think, 20 rebates available. So we kind of need a in or out decision from people so we know, if there's other people that are waiting that want a rebate or
What is Solarized Summit?
Summit is a program where we offer rebates for rooftop solar for residents and businesses. Actually, we're doing an outreach session for businesses that are interested in coming through the program as well. But it's $1,650 for Breckenridge residents to get a rebate towards their solar installation.
All right.
And then I wanted to introduce Hayden. Hayden is our new Sustainable Material Management Coordinator. He's joined our team. He's going to be helping with our shared enclosures and everything having to do with our material management goals from our Sustainable Breck Plan. He just started last week, so
All right,
we're happy to have him.
kind of like the dumpster guru.
That's
Give him a name tag.
all right. We'll get him one. The Breck E-Ride, our e-bike share program is planning's going along well for that. We are planning to do the launch date on Town Cleanup Day, Saturday, May 20th.
Oh, cool.
So we've got a set date there. We just thought there was some good synergies between the two events, kind of local audience, sustainability oriented. We're going to have a tent set up on the Riverwalk lawn there with a demo bike and some other swag to give away for that.
Was the logo the same one that you showed us? The logo the same one that you showed us 2 weeks ago?
Yes. Yeah. Unless you feel strongly, have strong opinions, we can probably make a change, but we need to decide now.
I was just curious if that was the
Okay.
same one that was finalized.
Yep, that was the one. And then we did just get their pricing recommendation just like an hour before this meeting. So staff is gonna kind of do some vetting and analysis of that. And then probably at your next council meeting, we'll bring that to you all. And then for the Mayor's Challenge for February prize week, we had 14 entries, which included the first ever ski commute entry, which is exciting. And then we have one more prize week coming up in March. We're gonna do a big push to try to get people to submit their alternative commute entries for.
That's great. Thank you very much. All right. All right, housing and childcare update. Don't ask them questions unless they're absolutely pertinent.
Hey, you know what? Just because you dropped the
No
bomb.
questions unless they're pertinent to today's meeting.
We have a lot to talk about.
Okay, everybody, let's try to bail Kelly out.
Good afternoon. We
Yeah,
actually
thanks for
have quite a few things that we wanted to update the council on. So and I'll move right along since I know you're a little behind on schedule, but
Stressing out about it over here.
So the first one is we did have some minutes in your packet from our last housing meeting, and there were quite a few topics on that meeting that I wanted to make sure that you saw and were aware of. One of them was a review of the blueprint and the progress on the blueprint goals and sort of projecting that blueprint out a few more years to make sure we're still going to achieve the targets. You know, initially, I think we were around 924 new units by 26. We've projected this out to 30 now, and we're around over 1,000 units, 1,008 to 1,033, somewhere in there. Still a combination of new construction and preservation. Preservation is about 35% of the units. The balance of that is new construction. So we did sort of lower the annual projected numbers of housing helps and buy downs. Just to, you know, the cost of those was going up, and also our ability just to manage them. We put that down to a number that we think is more reasonable and sort of matches what we've done over the last year. So it was a good time to take a look at the blueprint, see what we accomplished. And it was pretty amazing when you look at the projects that we've been involved with over the last year. So hopefully you got a chance to look at that, and we're still on target with the blueprint, but now we've projected out 2030 and have aligned it with the budget, which is very nice for the first time ever. And so worked with Dave and their team on the final budget, and now it's out to 2030 and it aligns with that blueprint. So we think we're in pretty good shape, even though we do have to have a loan. But long-term, the future of the fund is strong because that sales tax was extended 2046. It's just the next 3 or 4 or 5 years that are tight. So
Well, and those are our most aggressive years.
they are
as
very
well,
much
so,
aggressive
yeah.
years, and you know, we've got to do it while we can. It's just going to get more and more expensive the longer this goes. So at your next meeting, we're going to be scheduling time with you to talk about the contract on the stables. Because now that we kind of know what we think we want to build in terms of the amount of density, type of housing, the site, now it's time to really, get Suzanne under contract and discuss all the deal points of the contract. What we're going to pay her, what her fee's going to be, what the AMRs are that she's going to target. All that will be in sort of our contract with her. So we'll be bringing that to you at the next meeting, but and it's going to take 2 readings because it does talk about the conveyance of the transfer of ownership of the land to her at some point. I mean, generally, we're going to be doing all of the infrastructure as part of our support to the project. Our financial subsidy will go into building all of the infrastructure, the deep utilities, the roads. And then when it's ready, we'll do a subdivision and transfer ownership of the property, but in 3 segments, not phases. We're just talking about 1 phase, but we're going to transfer it in 3 different sort of portions so that she can build the first phase, so that show that she can perform, then build the second phase so that she can perform, and then the 3rd phase. So, but part of the agreement, so it does require an ordinance since it's going to be a transfer of ownership. It's going to discuss that. So be 2 readings, but and we're trying to work with Kirsten and Felice right now on that agreement. But one question came up as we were drafting it that we think is kind of fundamental to the agreement, and we wanted your input. We discussed this was the committee, and this was the issue of the willingness of the town to allow the Upper Blue Sand District to purchase 3 units in return for waiving their $2 million fee. It significantly helps the project budget. Which as of the last version we looked at, we're still a little bit in the red at the bottom. Suzanne is not making a fee yet. So we're still looking for all opportunities to help that budget. And so the committee was supportive of the proposal from Upper Blue. And they would pay for the units. They just wanted to bypass the lottery. They would use them as transition units. So there would be a special deed restriction on those units.
Or for their employees.
Employees or employees of municipalities in the town. We've seen this deed restriction on some of their other projects that they do. It's not open to any and all employees. They prefer to keep it limited to their employees, Town of Breck employees, school district employees, folks that are working for government. So
Would that be a master lease or they're not gonna sell it to the employee?
No.
They're gonna rent it to the.
they're going to rent it to the
They'll own it.
employee. I mean, ideally, maybe down the road, that employee would be able to buy that unit. But their concern is really just getting their employees in there and renting it for now, but potentially someday down the road, but they can't commit to that. So we're supportive of it from a staff level because it super helps the budget by about $2 million. And so as we're drafting up the agreement, we wanted to know if we should draft it up with assuming that or not assuming that. And again, you'll get to review the agreement 2 times at your next 2 meetings, but this just would help us figure out how to draft it and how to draft the budget too.
And to answer your question that you're probably gonna ask, it is not townhomes, since those are our lower AMIs, and it is not the single family homes. So
Yeah.
they would only be able to purchase the duplexes. And assuming we can move forward with this, we would discuss, are they the 2 bedrooms? Are they the 3 bedrooms? Is it a mix? What do we want? What are we willing to do?
So do you think that we could float the question of whether they would just buy one of our other units that we already own?
A buy down?
Yeah, because I guess I'm struggling with why we would have, I mean, not why, I guess, the neighborhoods are just, it's a different model. The deed restriction is different. It's people who live there a long time, whereas we have all these other units. We have like 12 units we could sell them today that wouldn't have special things attached.
We can certainly check with them, for sure. I think, when Suzanne was preparing the budget and she was approaching Andy to find out what the fees were going to be, I'm sure, when he told her over $2 million, she wouldn't surprise me if she said, is there any flexibility on helping with the fees? Because we've always been trying to get the Upper Blue Sand District to help with supporting affordable housing. So she may have put the question out to him.
Have they, Laurie?
What's that? No.
So this is a big
Yeah,
give.
but it's
for them.
weird to have like transitional housing in the middle of the neighborhood that's really built differently than that. And the deed restriction is that no one else can rent in that area for more than a year. And we're saying in perpetuity, these people can rent. And we do have this other option that would work for transitional housing. I think we should at least ask.
Yeah, I'll definitely ask for sure.
And I will say, we do have 2 units that are similar to that in Blue 52. One's a school district and one's ours.
Yeah, we did put that in the Blue
Blue
52 deed
52.
restriction that businesses could buy in Blue 52. We have not put that in Stables, and I don't think we're anticipating putting it in Stables. Of course, we're still working on that, and that's the kind of stuff we'll talk about next at your next meeting. But we put that in the Blue 52 deed restriction that with town approval, a local business could buy one of those units. And to date, it's just been the school district and hasn't really been an issue in terms of incompatibility or anything like that. But we'll ask Andy. I don't know why they're looking at Stables. They probably thought this is a good opportunity for them to sort of work with the town, work with the developer by trying to do something.
Other thoughts on that?
No, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Is the $2 million, sorry to chime in from up above, is the $2 million better to our budget or to Suzanne's?
Right now, Suzanne is in the hole about 1.5 million without a full fee. She's not even collecting her full fee. And so, she's willing to split it, but I mean, she would prefer that it just go to cover the gap that's in the budget. So our subsidy would still stay the same right now, which is about 13 million. Of course, we're still hoping for grants to sort of minimize our subsidy.
I wonder, to your point, even if it was like one of the new, even if it was like one of the new Alta Verde of phase 2, that would make a
More
lot of
sense.
sense and it'd be ready sooner.
No, I think Andy typically uses them for families, and we've got a lot of 1 bedrooms.
Yeah. All right, so any other thoughts on that? Generally supportive?
Yeah, I'm supportive. I think, like I
I'm
said, didn't hurt to ask.
Todd? If you're there.
Yeah, I'm supportive. Sounds great.
And we'll be scheduling a considerable amount of time with you at your next meeting, just to go through everything stable, so. A couple more updates and I'll be quick. The Summit Combined Housing Authority is launching the update to the needs assessment. And they are in the process of trying to get local employees to complete a survey about their housing situation and their housing needs. So we're doing everything we can do to push that survey. I know it's going to be on the Town of Breck social media and that sort of stuff, but I have flyers. If any employers want to put these in their break rooms, we really do want employees to go to the link and fill out the survey. And if they want help filling out the survey, there's a contact number on here as well. But
You put
It's
it on
open.
social media?
yeah, open for a month. Just wanted you all to be aware that that's ongoing right now.
Or will you also send it out to Bolt license holders, please? And that way, like, be able to put it into our, business intranets and stuff like that.
And Laurie, I would attach that
Internal.
poster too,
Yep.
and then the businesses can print the poster as well.
Perfect, thank you. Last thing, Alta Verde update. We are now up to 26 households have moved in. So that's a big jump from where we were last time. And actually, they're starting to see a lot more qualified applications coming through. They're still just now reviewing applications that came in January and December. So that's how backlogged it was because just of the quantity of applications that were submitted. But now there actually are starting to see more that are qualifying. So that's looking positive. And they're going to start doing some advertising, some marketing. 3 bedrooms have mostly been spoken for. So primarily now it's 2s and 1s that are available. But some good news from Alta Verde.
So that's confirming what we thought, that the larger units are more popular.
Yeah, interesting. Well, it's probably easier to income qualify because the larger the unit, the higher the
sure.
income that you can have to qualify for that unit. So
Lori, is the utilities included in their rent? 100%, right? So
in
they
the
don't
in the LUD
fluctuate?
units, LIHTC units, LUD units. In the LIHTC units, yes.
What about the
Utilities.
non-LIHTC units?
In Alta Verde one, I'll have to check. I'll have to check her rate sheet. I don't remember for
And
sure.
what about Coda Flats?
Included. I mean, generally, we try to include them because when we talk about affordability, it is your entire housing cost. It's your HOA, it's your insurance, it's your utilities. So when we talk about meeting a certain AMI and being affordable, we typically do include them. So altogether on Alta Verde, though, if you look back to the very beginning, they have now denied 200 people at Alta Verde. Oh, yeah. One other question. Also, now we're jumping back to Stables. I forgot. In addition to the Upper Blue Sand District unit, we did get a request from Suzanne that she also, if council were willing, would like her project lead to be able to buy a unit, pay the full price and buy a unit without the lottery. And, there's no impact to budget, but that's just a request from her as the developer. And it will be included in our contract that you'll see next week. So developers entitled to purchase 1 unit outside the lottery or is not entitled to purchase 1 unit outside the lottery. So it'll be her person that's working on the site.
Yes, it's the project superintendent.
I'm torn with that. I mean, everyone in our community, there's gonna be a huge wait list for this and I know this person is working directly towards the goal of providing more housing, but I don't know, that's a tough one. I lean towards no.
It's a slippery slope.
Uh-huh.
I think, then the
Yeah.
electricians, the plumbers, like.
We wish we could give one to everyone, right? So, yeah. Todd, any thoughts on that?
I like how you look.
Thought he would be there this time. Nope. Okay.
He's a loser.
No, I'm okay with it. I mean, it does create a slippery slope. But, you know, I'm okay with a couple of these set asides for, you know, the sand district or the developer. Yeah. And if you guys could use your microphones, that'd be amazing. It's really hard to pick up. I've got my volume on 100 and it's really hard to hear everybody. So thank you for the extra attention there.
Your thoughts?
I'm okay with it as well. It's a tough one. You know, we talked about it, and so Todd and I've had the benefit of thinking about it for a while, but it's you know, these developers are going out on a limb to do these projects with us, and I think Suzanne's bringing a very creative project to us, and you know, not been done yet, you know, with zero carbon footprint
And
I-
definitely not charging market rate fee.
Yeah.
I mean. so
Yeah,
she's-
exactly. We see a lot of folks coming in that make a lot of money on a lot of projects, and I think Suzanne,
And so the project manager, he'd be under the same deed restriction, you know, I mean, he couldn't all of a sudden decide to work remotely or short term.
The only thing they're asking for is waiver from the lottery, not waiver from the deed
Nothing else.
restriction at all. Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
So I guess we'll have to see what Eric says because I'm not okay with it. So it's 3-3.
Mhm.
So
I don't know if I could change my mind at any minute.
It'll be part of the contract discussion next week. So,
Okay.
okay. I think that's all I had for you unless you had any other questions.
We're under orders not to ask any more questions. So,
thank you, Lori. All right, committee reports. There were 2, Summit Stage and Rec Advisory. Any questions? No? Okay, great. Financials? Are there any additional questions? I think you did a beautiful job, Dave. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. All right, everyone good? Yes, okay. Liquor and Marijuana Licensing Authority Annual Report.
And
Helen?
you had it. If you have questions, Helen can answer them. If you don't, then we will move on.
Questions? No? Thank you very much for the great report, Helen.
wonderful report, yeah.
All right, despite being behind, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Thank God.
Tap, tap.
All the other, he had everything.
Thank you. All right. Okay, thank you guys for being quick. Hopefully everybody's ready and we're gonna move on to Riverwalk discussion with Norris Design.
Good evening, members of council. You? Trying to figure out how to scroll here. That top thing. There we go. Okay. We'll be having several meetings discussing the Riverwalk and the future planning efforts that are going to be ongoing over the next several months. To kick off this discussion, we really wanted to focus on two really high-level overarching things. One is establishing the project area limits within which this first phase is focused on, with the acknowledgement that within this project area, there could be many different segments that are built at different times. And those segments could all have some unique set of challenges, but that from an overarching perspective for the project area, we're going to have an overall set of goals that's consistent across the entire project. The second thing is that we've heard from council about the importance of further connections to the north and south from this primary project area. That is South Park and beyond towards the ice rink, Tori's favorite place, and north French Street. North to French Street, I think it's been mentioned before, towards City Market and to the other river improvements that have occurred further to the north. Within this project area limits, some of the benefits we have is that we've already conducted survey within some of this project area, which is really helpful. And we've also done environmental analysis within part of this, including wetlands and floodplain. So things that are going to help us be, you know, in a good position to move forward. And part of why we would just establish the project area in this way. But today, our main overall goal is discussing those overall project goals. So our plan of attack for this is to go through each of the goals, and hopefully you had a chance to read in your packet the different kinds of things that could be policy or action underneath that goal, and talk about any of the additional items that you think should be addressed within that overarching goal for the Riverwalk. We're going to set a little timer when we go through each of those, just to say, okay, you have 4 to 5 minutes to talk about that goal. If we need more discussion time, we can come back to it depending on how we're doing on time. But that's how we're thinking we'll run it, to try to get enough attention on this because it's super important, but also keep you moving into your agenda.
I'm totally fine with that. Anything to do to help out Kelly.
Does anybody have a question regarding the project area? Todd?
I was
No
calling
questions.
him Todd God because he's somewhere.
As long as you have the ice rink in there, he's okay.
That will happen. Okay. So what are we trying to accomplish today? Like I said, establishing these overall project goals. So Tori.
All right. So over the course of this project, you know, previously starting, these are kind of the goals that we've heard over time and discussed previously. And this slide is kind of connecting your town council goals as well as the goals for this particular project. So that's what the orange lines are doing. So your town council goals, your more boots and bikes, less cars, leading environmental stewardship, delivering a balanced year-round economy, and that hometown authentic character that we want here in Breck. So connecting all those over, safety is a big one. Obviously, we want to reduce those pedestrian and bike and vehicular conflicts. Connectivity, we want to get our bike all the way through town without having to dismount, right? Environment, huge for the whole town, whole county. Improving the health of the river, all our materials management. Sounds like we got a new guy, which is really exciting. So we're going to be besties. Oh, he's left. Oh, I'm so sad. And then reducing pollution, of course, by having less cars. And then placemaking, enhancing that pedestrian experience along the river corridor. And then, of course, community engagement. We really want to understand all our stakeholder needs throughout the river corridor for sure. So we're going to start on safety. Get my timer going. Awesome. All right. So safety. Like we said, reducing our conflicts between peds, bikes, vehicles. Vehicles include delivery trucks as well as trash trucks. So it's something that we're really aware of that we need to pay attention to. And then safer street crossings, making them, bolder, very visible. Cars will stop, pedestrians feel safe, and bikes. And then each segment we know will have different safety issues. Each segment has, like we said, different issues going through them or different opportunities. And we know that safety will be a part of all segments, but probably in different ways.
So now we'd love to get your input on safety items that you think that should be included on this list.
I don't know if it goes on this list or not, but lighting, I think is huge. Elaine, I mean, since you've mentioned Fort Collinger project and the time I've spent there, I mean, what you guys did with lighting there was just incredible. And I know some of it's in conflict with dark sky, and we're gonna have to make some decisions there. But I think the safety aspect of this project, and many other reasons to try to move people back, which we'll go over as we go through it. We need the lighting and some vibrant and some creative and this is where we can really bring a lot of the characters. So this will play through a few of the categories.
Sure.
And I think crossing is a challenge just because of the streets are snow covered. And so I think we need something, an enhancement that is kind of above grade. I don't know how you do that, above, maybe whatever, you guys do it for a living. But yeah, we can't rely on crosswalks. We can't rely just because they're covered by snow half the year. And also, I'm a big fan of speed bumps, but the plow people hate me.
Now, I'd like to understand how our other bike lanes are working. The Main Street bike lane, is that something you still want to keep up? Is it a safety concern? Is that an alternative or viable option or not?
It's more of a network.
Network.
In mind as well as if, do we keep the current lanes that are on Main Street if a better alternative exists? And I think you can look at the Watson to Lincoln connection right there that we have currently as an example of what works really well. Going past that East Sawmill lot, that used to be a really difficult zone for pedestrians and bikers, and the work that Shannon and the town has done has been fantastic right there. And not all the different blocks lend themselves to that kind of sequester, but I think it works out really well, and that's a great way of utilizing. To I think Kelly's point or Dick's is on the crossings on South Main, where they're crossing, I guess, South Park, where they cross, and having those illuminated signs when there's pedestrians present, I think is very a very effective way, especially in theirs, and that's worked out really well. And it's nice to see, especially on Saturday, Sunday mornings when there is a lot of cross traffic. It gets people's attention to stop.
Are we considering removing the bike lanes on Main Street?
I don't know.
Well, that is not included in your 4 to 5 minutes. No, I think that Carol's point was really about if we're looking at the broader picture, how are the existing lanes functioning in comparison to if we proposed a new alternative path that was better?
Right. Yeah, would that, reduce the vehicle and bike conflict, that kind of thing, that full separation.
Kelly, do you have anything?
I don't. Thank you.
All right.
Todd,
God?
No, it's good.
Okay.
All right. Connectivity. So kind of continuing this conversation that we were just having. Providing a safer way for bicycles to get through town, creating a linked bikeway without having dismount zones, creating a secondary pathway for pedestrians as well. It's not just all about bikes. We got our peds too, we got those boots. And then encouraging people to park and leave their car and walk and bike to their destinations by giving this clear connection that's easy to navigate in and around Main Street. And that also leads to our more boots, more bikes.
Thinking about also e-bikes and how that fits into the connectivity, because I think that's a really important part of the leaving the cars
Mm-hmm.
where they belong, I guess.
Again, I will say with snow, a lot of those, the designation between pedestrian and bicycles are, you know, painted on the asphalt. So kind of above grade signage.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey, would you think that doing both just for summer and winter, or just the above grade signage?
Would you say that again?
Would you think of doing both? So like you're saying a lot of it is painted on the ground, and that does work in the summer, but in the winter it's covered in snow, like you said. So having both the painting on the ground as well as the above grade signage, is that what you're saying?
And you know what I mean? I think it's obviously it's more important for crosswalks to be above grade just because people use them year round. I think, you know, there's not as many bicyclists in the winter though. That's how I got here today. So yeah, on both. I think it needs because I do think there is, you know, it can be kind of a conflict between hikers and walkers and people kind of biking through town, rubbernecking and, you know, looking around, and that could, you know, lead to an accident.
For sure.
I, you know, think out of the box. You know, I mean, this is a chance to really enhance the Breckenridge character in this secondary, you know, transportation path. So, I mean, I would love to see us do something that, you know, you really think Breckenridge when you see it. And don't minimize you said it, but I mean, let's not minimize thinning the traffic on the Main Street sidewalks.
For sure.
I mean, I know during peak season, summer and winter, you know, I use that path back there all the time, you know, just because the sidewalk it's excruciatingly slow, and maybe that's good for the merchants and such, but you know, and I don't know where this fits, probably in a number of them, but obviously the year-round economy, but I think there's a real opportunity to bring some real character back there. If we can get the vehicles off or limit the vehicles to a very, very limited early morning time, we could really bring a vibrant economic corridor to that backside of the Main Street buildings and really have it be cool.
Yeah.
You know, where you could have cafes with seating out there, and you know, which they might have to bring in the evenings or push out of the way because some trucks will come through early morning or whatever. But I just think the opportunities are really endless there.
Sure.
In the connectivity, I think it's been said already, but I really want to reiterate especially with the town engaging in the e-bike program, that's a trend that's only going to get more robust and more numerous. And, you know, you see a lot behind the rec center, going, you know, past the turf field where there's families and kids and they're all rolling by and people are screaming by on bikes, and just I don't think signage is the answer. I think it's a physical barrier of some sort separating the pedestrian lane and the bike lane, because the bike lane is not what we traditionally think of bikes. You know, they're motorcycles now coming down there where it is as dangerous as being on the street, especially for the, you know, the families that are going out for a leisurely walk, not understanding what vehicles are out there on that same path.
For sure. That's a good note. All right.
Yeah, just to jump in real quick, I agree 100% with Dick, and a lot of good points here by everybody else. I really think that it's an opportunity to create this walkable river and kind of create this experience that everybody loved during COVID, which maybe the only thing people loved during COVID was kind of walkable Maine, and really almost redefine Breck in some ways of like I'd love for folks to be like, man, that river in Breck is just fantastic to go spend time along. So whatever that looks like from a, landscape architecture perspective, I'd love to see you be creative and push the envelope, but also make sure we do have good connectivity and flow.
All right, awesome. All right, look at you guys, 5 seconds early. So proud.
But not our first rodeo.
Doesn't want to love me.
It is yours.
It does.
It's not doing it.
Oh, you had it. There you go.
There we go.
Is this me or you?
It's you, but I can
Oh.
go if you want.
Okay. All right, placemaking, something that Dick was just touching on, enhancing the pedestrian experience along the river, relieving congestion from Main Street sidewalks by providing an alternative pedestrian route in downtown, capitalizing on river touch points and expanding those opportunities. And then also acknowledging that each segment will have different opportunities and constraints with placemaking depending on the specific parameters of that segment. For example, some areas don't have as good the right topography to create a river touch point, but some do.
Yeah.
So identifying the differences between those places and almost having a niche experience between those different touch points along the river that speak more to that character of that block or area. So placemaking.
I think this one, touches at the heart of this effort, really celebrating the effort, the river. I think it would be important to make wherever possible ADA friendly for wheelchair users. For some individuals, like this is their nature experience, this is their walk. So keeping that in mind, and also with placemaking, I know we'll talk about community engagement, but let's make sure to work with our partners that have a location that gives on that project corridor, Breckenridge history, Breckenridge tourism off of BCA. There's a lot of opportunities, I think, for partnership within the proposed corridor, and really hearing from those partners what their wish list is.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think similar to that, but with people who, are owners and shops along I feel like there might need to be some partnership. A lot of people are using that back area as like storage. I'm wondering if the town can provide some off-site storage that they could move some of that to, just to encourage them to clear out that space and make it more inviting so that
Sure.
so that people can come and go from those back doors. Cause I know a lot of them are using it for other things. So I think I think we really need to talk to them about what do they need to help us make this successful.
Yeah.
Kelly, maybe we incent it with allowing them to use some outdoor space
Oh, yeah.
for sales, to
Yeah.
generate sales, which would
What's- yeah, what's the
inherently
partnership?
incent them to liven
Move
up
it out.
their back.
Yep.
But I totally agree.
Yeah. Cause we just can't, it won't draw without the
Yeah.
shopkeepers being.
Do we worry that the Main Street businesses that do not have river alley access, by kind of focusing on the alley, that were taken away from their business?
I mean, I think all over town is competing.
Yeah.
So, engaging and activating this space,
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for like incentivizing them to kind of have some sort of programming, some energy on the Riverwalk, but I'm saying some of the places that don't have that capability, just want to give them some love too.
Yeah, you're right. We have to be careful, but I just think they need to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, and I'll
guys?
just
Oh, God, there we go.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just throw in, I love the idea of layering in an arts piece there for not only river touch points, but connectivity to BCA, and whether it's performances or, pieces that are put up, for part of the year, in perpetuity, layered in the arts here along the river would be great.
All right, great.
Todd, that's a good point. I might expand that into our entire nonprofit community. You know, you think about Breck History, they might have a place in there. You think about the BOEC with some of Carol's comments and accessibility for all. You know, you think many of our arts, many of our nonprofit partners could maybe have a place in here somewhere,
Okay.
somehow. Which also is Breckenridge, you know.
I like it.
You guys are doing really great. And it's a great segue into community engagement because any of those partners could and should have a role in considering this new opportunity. So community engagement, connecting with the community to involve any users, property owners within the design process and portions of the Riverwalk, because and part of it is private property. So, and as you could see from the graphic that we showed earlier, the width is quite variable between town property and what's private property and what those opportunities are. So segment by segment was one of the ideas that we talked about in terms of how to engage stakeholders effectively, because there are different situations within each different zone. So seeking out those groups and getting feedback and input directly from all those users. And really thinking about how we bring that community character and what we love about the town into each different segment that is also part of the whole. Bring people to the table to talk about engagement really helps them feel like part of the solution and give them more ownership, and potentially helps to leverage some of that private participation and improvements that you were talking about before. So engagement.
And I agree doing it segment by segment because there's, what is it, 300 block, there's a lot of cars back there. I mean, there's parking. And
It's different.
yeah, that's kind of a unique beast there.
I don't know if it makes sense to have a space that can be a little community gathering space, or on the showcasing nonprofit, some sort of rotating situation where a nonprofit can feature what they've done for the community.
Yeah, or do we create a busker space?
That's what I was just gonna say.
That could be cool.
I don't know if even that, I mean, can we tell the buskers of that clown wearing orange? You know, can we like direct them away from the Blue River Plaza and have a kind of a public performance space, or is that kind of a First Amendment issue?
I'm not sure. We're in slippery slope there. We'll have to let the law people.
Well, I'll touch base with Kirsten. We'll talk.
Too, because, you know, your experience with the PD and, you know, I mean, because there's a lot of lawsuits out there about that, I think.
We'd have to be careful about how we did that, I think.
We can't have like kind of a public, kind of a prescribed public.
They can look into it.
Speak
Mhm.
more on it, but you can't put them somewhere where they don't have the same kind of access that they would have had in the spot that they want to.
I was gonna say, if it's done well, which I know you guys would do it well, it's gonna incent people to want to go there anyway, so.
Yeah, it just gives more buskers more opportunities.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think that sorry, not to make a
I
joke,
think
but
we need more balloons.
just right now, there's not a lot of alternative spaces for that type of activity to occur. And by improving the Riverwalk in other areas, that use could happen naturally in other spaces. And it could also be designed in a way that makes it like we don't really want that to happen there based on how the design works. Because you can influence movement or stop and stay a while with the design of the space.
You know, go ahead.
Is there an opportunity that we could collect some, just what the community would prioritize here? Like, I feel like this is, where I'd really love to see us reach out to the folks who are going to RMU and also people who are visiting the visitor center and get a lot more public input on this part. Cause I feel like that's what's going to make it feel like authentic Breckenridge.
And I think partnering with the BTO to really have a depth of understanding of the brand of Breckenridge would help you with that a lot.
Good point.
I wonder, I know that with, I think it was the bike or trail plan, there was a mapping exercise associated with that where people could drop a pin and comment on an area that was special to them. So we could use another tool like that if that worked out, if that was successful. I think Teddy did that. Okay, we'll follow up with Teddy on that one. Awesome. Anything else on this one? All right, environment. Obviously, the more we can promote alternative modes of transportation, the more that we reduce fossil fuel reliance. As Carol mentioned, more moments for human interaction with the river. Depending on no matter what your ability is, sorry. Improving the health of the river. There's definitely some spots that could use some enhancement from the perspective of the natural landscape, the water flow, slowing it down, moving it faster. And also movement through versus straight across. And then, on the environment as well, this is where we do have a lot of services and operational environmental considerations provided in alleys with materials management. So ensuring that those facilities are working properly and supporting the overall goals.
There's an educational element there that we want to keep in mind around the environment.
As far as like more boots, bikes, less cars, have you ever seen places where like pedicabs or rickshaws function well, that we could direct people from like maybe the parking structure and get them in those things, and rather than on a bike and just get them, like have Jay pedal them around town?
Jeffrey, I own 5 of those. We tried it in Frisco. It didn't work very well.
Oh, really? They didn't work? It didn't work in the mountains?
We need a better way, better program.
We had it here
Electric
too.
motors now.
But yeah,
It was?
Yeah.
Oh,
It didn't work.
we drive ours around. It's awesome.
I've,
It
yeah,
should be explored.
I've definitely taken them in Denver,
Yeah, but it wouldn't work up here, you don't think? Because
Work up here, but I think it needs better programming because it's just a little smaller. It's not like it's the Rockies game where you're having
yeah.
40,000 people in one parking lot
Okay.
generally. But I think that there's a good opportunity to explore. It's a last mile route thing
yeah.
in an alternative form.
Yep.
I think for this one, and I think this has already been said, but it's really just elevating the river as, a focal point. Cause it feels like in the center of town, it's very much, you can appreciate the river, but no place else do you ever really think about it. And so I think just bringing at least that through, the gondola to a place where it's another just focal point, that the river is the true draw in that area. I mean, I think people would get off of the gondola in the summer and spend time there if there was any way to do that.
right, a space
Yeah.
provided for that.
Yeah.
Hey, what is that community guard, that thing behind
The
Canal?
Alpine Garden,
Alpine Garden.
hanging out there, so I know what it's called.
Yeah, I,
That could be enhanced. That's a good point, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a gem that's, I think, underutilized.
Yeah, I think there's not enough people who know about how great
Yes.
it is, for sure.
that place.
Unrelated to this, but in general, throughout this project, if we need to consider a major capital investment for flow or underpass or bridge, whatever, I don't think we should rule that out.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely some opportunities where we can look at like where that would make the most sense and like get the most bang for your buck. Because obviously those are never cheap, but sometimes they do alleviate a lot. So we can definitely make that part of our assessment and thought process for sure.
Said he's good.
Okay.
I checked in.
Okay, so what are we missing an overarching project goal category within this, these 5 that we just went through? Is there anything that you think we haven't really touched on with those?
Maybe it kind of runs into the previous slide of environment,
Mhm.
but I want to be very considerate of sign pollution, of trying to tell everybody everything of bikes, people, slow down, speed up, cross here, cross there. I see it already being, it's already an issue on, on our main street, on our trails, on our bike path that says, wait, there's a left-hand turn coming. Yes, there's a left-hand turn. We can see that, right? And so I just want to be very strategic about what our sign package looks like, how we're communicating, and trying to communicate as least obtrusive as possible. People are going to be taking, hopefully, there's going to be pictures being taken all along this corridor. And I just want to keep the traditional signage as limited and as and effective, just not having so many signs that they become less effective of just having that be on point.
Or even better if we could, like we said earlier, is get out of the box and do something very unique to Breckenridge. That would serve the same purpose without all the signage.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So do we agree with the overall project goals and those items coming that fall underneath each of those goals? Do we think that those are the right goals for the overall project?
And everything that we talked about today.
We'll add into that. And we'll be back here on 3/14/23 to talk about the living lab. And so we can have that updated kind of goal sheet prepared for you to have in your packet so that you can see that finalized.
They just warned us.
Can you, Elena, can you change this from town council goals to community destination management goals or something like that? Because that's all of our goals. That's not.
Well, maybe one of the goals we're missing is to make them community goals and not town council goals.
Well, it's from the destination management plan.
Oh,
Yep,
okay,
okay.
yeah, we can do that. Oh, yeah.
Shannon?
No, I'm just kidding.
So we're good for now? Okay. Well, that's great. You're
Yay.
closer to being, it's 5:30.
Mhm.
Do we have enough time?
Oh, and
We're good?
The next one with the living lab, that's the alley between Watson and Ski Hill. So that's what we'll be talking about next meeting, I think in a couple weeks.
14th, yep. All right, thank you guys all so
Yeah,
much for your
thank you.
time.
You.
All right, we're moving on. So did you have something?
No, I don't.
Okay.
gonna ask Elena.
Thank you guys very much. Thanks for keeping us
you.
on schedule too.
Have to do the planning commission first, so we have, okay.
We are moving on to planning commission interviews. Mark?
You applying for planning?
Thanks.
commission?
Yes, I'd like to. Just wanted to update you. It appears that one of our candidates, Greg Gordon, did not show up and we have not heard from him.
Okay.
So we're down to two. So Elaine, I think, is the next one on the list. So Elaine, if
She
you'd
is.
like to come down.
You guys, I emailed the interview questions just a second ago.
Oh, you did a second ago? Okay.
I mean, we had them already, but
I was just looking for 'em.
Hello.
Lane.
Lane Gort. Thank you for interviewing me today.
Very nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. So I think we can take a couple of minutes just for her to give some background and then we'll do a few questions. So you can go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Elaine Gort. I grew up in Loveland, Colorado. I grew up loving the outdoors. My family used to take us backpacking and Nordic skiing and used to come to Breck and I always fell in love with it when I was little. Went to college at Colorado School of Mines, have an engineering degree, worked for about 5 years as an engineer, decided wanted to expand on that. Went to, got a business and law degree. So I'm a lawyer and worked for an oil company for a while, worked with Black and Veatch doing kind of helping power plants around the world get permits and for construction projects, which is required for lending and stuff like that. It's very involved around the world, as you can imagine. You're getting funded by international funds. And then more recently, after I graduated from law school, the last 23 years, I've worked with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. I'm not used to talking in front of a microphone. This is very nervous.
You're doing great.
Yeah, it's really weird. So I'm a patent attorney and I work with tons of, codes, Supreme Court decisions that are kind of murky. I've worked with business methods mostly, which is kind of an abstract kind of thing to get patents on, has to do with taking data and doing things with it. I worked with healthcare data informatics for a long time. Recently, I've moved into the area of autonomous cars that all have these sensors on it and, smart technology. Also work with drone technology, look at tons of drawings, tons of boringly worded claims, but I find it fascinating. So I really love the mix of technical things with the legal side and then kind of looking at it from a business aspect too. So I think that's really important as far as the Planning Commission to kind of balance things. We want to maintain the history of the area, but we also want to, make this a great experience for people visiting. And then you also have to balance that with the people who live here, whether they're, they live in their $5 million house or it's someone who's just new into town and trying to get by, right? So the engineer in me loves to solve complex problems like that. So I'm really interested in that. So I think I'm a really good fit. The reason I'm interested in the board is because my 2 kids are now in high school and I now have time to give back to the community. I've been involved in Rotary for about 4 years up here and really enjoyed that. I also do reading buddies on Wednesdays, but that's more into math buddies because I'm kind of a math nerd. And that's where they need help. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And
Boring. You'll love the Planning Commission.
I don't think it's boring at all. Been to a couple of meetings and I
Do you have
thought it was
any ties to the development community that could be perceived as a conflict of interest?
I have none. I owned a property at Beaver Run for about 20 years, which we sold during COVID. And then I live out by the golf course now. Yeah. But
How do you think that planning efforts are generally going in town? Are there any particular topics that you believe the commission should be addressing over the next couple of years?
well, from what I've seen, I think you all are really working very forward thinking and progressing in all the areas that I think are important. There's lots being done to reduce impact on the environment. There's talk about, how to conserve energy. I think I have a lot of ideas for that. I work in kind of smart controls, and system design, control systems. And I think a lot can be done, with snow melt systems, for example. There's a lot of energy wasted in just heating the environment when it's not really necessary, or maybe we can do it at a better time of day to get things to melt. So yeah, and I think, it's always a balance, and I'm sure you guys feel that every time you're looking at a project, you're trying to get people through town, but there's always a cost to whatever you do. And you have to look at it's going to make people upset whose property's on the other side of Main Street, right? But I think it's important to listen and hear and look at innovative ideas to solve these complex problems and make this, I just love Breck. I think it's important to keep Breck authentically Breck. I stole that from my son. He made it up for me for the application. Yeah, and whatever it is that makes Breck authentic, we need to really try to not make this some other town, not Breck mountain town.
That's great. Jay, you have a planning question?
Sure. Elaine, thank you for being here and applying. The commission meets the first and third Tuesday of each month, generally from 5:30 to 8 or 9. Sometimes after that, with some site visits also before the meetings at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's also trainings that are expected once in a while or once a year or so. Do you have that much time to adequately serve on the commission?
Absolutely. As I've mentioned, my kids are now in high school. They both drive. One's going to college next year. I should have a lot of extra time and I have real pretty flexible work job with my current job. So I would love to do all those things. I hope you'll seriously consider me for the position.
Thanks, Lynn.
Great. Did you have something else to say? Or
No,
you seemed like you were going to jump right in.
no, I just had a hiccup.
Okay. All right, Elaine, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
All right.
We will get back to applicants tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing from you all. Please seriously consider me.
Thanks, Elaine.
Much. Very impressive.
Very impressive.
Yes, please.
You can get your stuff if you want. Okay.
That's true. If you like foreign stuff, you'll love this. What's
Right
that?
here, please, in front, yeah. Uh-oh, you have a soccer injury?
Not soccer.
Oh.
Yeah, first one in 7 years, so I'll take that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
okay. Knock on wood or whatever I have to do. Yeah, I know you haven't been in hockey in forever, Dave.
I know.
Andrea, thanks very much for coming. Will you give a little bit of background on yourself? We did get your application and your resume, so you can just give a little brief highlights and why you're interested.
For sure. I have lived in Breckenridge for 15 years. I give back to the community in a number of different ways. I have been the director of High Country Soccer. I coach in my spare time. I coach at Summit Youth Hockey. I give back. I try to coach at the high school when I can for soccer. So I feel like I'm really connected to the community with the youth and in that way. So I was kind of looking for other ways to give back. This is my home. This is my community. I really care about the direction that it's going. I plan to be here for the rest of my life. So it matters to me the decisions that we're going to make today, tomorrow, and in the future, because it's going to be impactful down the road. I work for Gravity House now, kind of fell in my lap a couple of years ago. That community has been awesome, and it's been a nice change for me. And yeah, it's just allows me to be outside the community, see other communities, see how other mountain towns are dealing with things in more of a way than I was before. I felt like very planted here and in a great way. But now my job takes me to Vail, to Steamboat, to Winter Park, and as we expand other places. So I get to kind of see, and the way the model works is like, you're in a Gravity House, but you feel that community where you are inside a Gravity House. And I think that just translates so well to, the Planning Commission, and like, you want to feel like you're in Breck, and Breck has this unique quality and unique space and really unique place. So how can we adapt what other places are doing to really, to us, but also take what's working and make it happen here.
That's great. Well, we miss you at the soccer program.
Yeah, thanks. I miss you guys. I miss the kids. I miss the parents. There's lots of things I do miss for sure. But yeah.
Looking at your resume, it's pretty indicative of the typical Summit County Breckenridge person that's kind of climbed through the ranks. It's impressive.
Thank you.
Starting as a ski instructor and ending up in your current position. But in all that, all your travels, do you have any perceived conflicts with the development community that would make it difficult to make a unbiased opinion or
No, I don't believe so. I mean, we're established, Gravity House is established here in Breck. If there ever were anything else we wanted to do, I would absolutely excuse myself.
so no development gave you a hard check or something on the
No.
that you hate?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Man, that's good. That was one of the questions they gave me to ask, so
Yeah.
I'm not reading into anything. I'm just parroting.
Hey, you got to put it out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
How do you think the planning efforts are generally going in town? Are there any particular topics that you believe the commission should be addressing over the next couple of years?
I mean, there's a ton of hot topics in Breckenridge right now, workforce housing, how that's impacting how the town is growing. I mean, sitting in and listening to the Riverwalk development, there's just multiple areas that impact this town that larger than the historic district, right? The town is much larger. There's much bigger things going on. I think every year, every challenge or everything that's presented is a unique opportunity for us to kind of shape where we're going, because we're going to keep expanding. There's going to be different issues that come up in a couple of years. Will workforce housing still be there? Probably. Will other things come up and other issues and other important topics as the needs of the town change? Absolutely. So I think it's doing a great job, but you have to be adaptable.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Jay.
Planning Commission meets the first and third Tuesday of each month. Most of the time it's from 5:30 to 8 or 9, or sometimes later. A lot of times we have site visits beforehand. There's periodic trainings that happen throughout the year that you're expected to make time for. And then on top of all that, you have 100 to 150 page packets that are very, very focused on a single or a couple subjects. Do you think that you have time to dedicate to the commission?
Yeah, absolutely. My job is intense, but it's flexible. I get to make my own hours. Right now I'm balancing. I play hockey 3 days a week in the morning at 6:30, and I get up at 5 a.m. and I do an hour of work before I go to hockey. I'm up late at night. End of the month is a busy time for me, but it's really what I can fit in. And there's no I have to be at work 9 to 5. I have to do this. I have to be in this place. There are certain times that I am at different sites, but if you look at my resume and all the things that I do, maximizing my time and fitting everything in is something that I am mastered over the last 20 years.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks very much for your application. It's excellent, and we're thrilled with your interest. And we're going to be making a decision tonight, and you'll have a phone call tomorrow, but I guess they could also listen into the vote, right? So
Sure.
depends on how excited you are. But thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. Have a good night.
Our pleasure. Okay. Did you send me something for the executive session?
There you go.
He pointed it towards you.
We will have to move into the lower level so that we can get Todd on.
Okay.
Cool. I'll jump on the other Zoom.
Wait for the motion.
Okay, I'm gonna make the motion, Todd, and then you can jump onto the other one. I move that the town council go into executive session CRS 24-6-402-4E for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators concerning property the town may be interested in acquiring for open space.
Second.
So do I do this?
Well, I think Shannon does tally the vote or take the vote.
Do you want it? I'll do it. I have it.
All right.
Mayor Mamula absent. Carol Sade.
Yes.
Sorry, I did that wrong. Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens. Yes.
We're ready.
Okay, we're going to the other room. I'm gonna go ahead and the town.
Are we back on? Okay.
The Council has discussed in executive session whether to direct the manager to prepare an option to acquire property for open space purposes under certain parameters which are confidential for purposes of negotiations. For sake of transparency, any final decision as to whether to enter into the whether to enter into and execute a final agreement on the acquisition of the property is the authority of the manager. All right, work session is adjourned.
So unless you would like to take a few minutes and do your committee updates.
Sure. You okay with that? Carol looks mad. She
Oh,
have
no,
to
I'm
answer.
fine with that.
You want to?
Girl hungry?
That's the thing. Social equity, we had a meeting. We're discussing, or should I not skip? I'm going right in.
No, that's great. Go. Love it.
We are discussing the different goals and breaking up into subgroups. And since the Black History Month video was so successful with Jay and Larissa partnered with him on it, the commission has decided to continue to pursue those short video opportunities that Brooke will help us highlight.
That's great. Done? Yes? Are you done?
Yeah, that's it. for Social equity.
Okay. I don't know who's next. What do you have?
I'll go next. BTO.
Great.
We had a meeting, it was good. Lucy shared some data. Our family business has been dropping. We traditionally are in the 35 to 38% families. We're down to about 25% now. Our out of state is also dropping a bit, but it's being replaced and then some by our in-state overnight. And then we talked a bit about, going into our strategic planning meeting and looking at some of this data and just, the pandemic changed the playing field and much of it may not go back in this industry. So, some of the things we're going to really focus on in the strategic planning, which is coming up in March. And, she has invited the dean of the business school at CU. And I believe she's planning to invite council to that first part to listen to his stuff. It's very interesting. I encourage everyone that has a chance to come. But working on quality of life issues, definitions and issues. What to do, if anything, about the drop in the family business as well as the out of state. Do we have old goals go away and start over? Is it time for a clean slate for the BTO? So these are all issues that we're gonna really dive in hard on at the strategic meeting.
I'm glad Lucy's there to help guide that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be a meaty discussion and a good one. Hey, some of her points are really good. Is it time to just, take a fresh look?
Okay, thank you. Open space?
We had a meeting last night, they did the state of the open space report. After BOSAC feedback, it will be coming to the council soon as far as the open space report. 2023 trailhead projects with Summit County, the town, their BOSAC is proposing 3 trailhead projects for next summer. Browns Gulch, it's 20 spaces behind by the gate in an already disturbed area behind the Green Gate at the start of the Swan River Trail. That was met with mixed reviews, but the lion's share of BOSAC supported doing that. There are 2 parking lots that have been used and are used that accommodate many cars, but those are technically on county roads that could be an issue down the road, but haven't been. So there will be a new parking area there. Lorium Trailhead that met with rave reviews where they're going to go over that through that gate that's already there and add some parking in that area. That is an area that is impacted by a lot of use and it is kind of a a public safety issue because it's just the cars bleed out on the road. Another parking lot there, and want to do is a Riling Dredge ADA parking area. They're gonna create an ADA area that I think we can do maybe a site visit on ourselves, and it's just for 2 cars. And on the south side of French Gulch Road, it's a wheelchair friendly, not ADA access, but a wheelchair friendly goal for that. They have changed the or actually proposing to alter the bridge, the current bridge, to 2 sections that are 10 feet wide, opposed to the bridge it is now, I'm guessing, maybe 5 feet or 4 feet wide. 2 sections that are 10 feet wide and 20 feet long along the bridge, like bulb outs of sorts. And they'll come to council with a price tag on that down the road. We talked about that bridge early on, the last time it was proposed. Now, in this, they will also come back, we will come back with a kind of a more definitive schematic of how they propose to do that ADA trail, that wheelchair-friendly trail to the dredge. So that's coming down the road.
Do you know, are the bump outs, are they required by ADA access?
Well, this trail won't be ADA. This ADA is a higher threshold of, so this is just a
Wheelchair access.
no, there's
No requirement.
no, there's no requirement. I maybe a recommendation, it could be. Tony said something about, well, even now, a mountain bike, a 2 mountain biker or a mountain biker and a hiker have trouble passing, and one will have to, one who might have to back up, if that's, whatever. If there's a wheelchair, definitely someone would back up, but which I don't think is all that onerous. Then the trails work plan, the single signage work plan is working on that. Staff organized information provided by BOSAC for the January meeting. And the work plan supports a master plan, strategic goals, and short, long, and midterm goals. We also got and I'll get this to you guys. We got a spreadsheet of all our trails with a application and a designation of what those trails are suited for. They have it in numerical order, and it was pretty worthless because we need it in alphabetical order. But it's really interesting to see how many trails we have, and I, by looking at that spreadsheet, I kind of say, well, no, this is not a two-way multi-use trail, but whatever. So it'd be interesting if we can go over that. I'll get them all to you guys, and you can look at it and add some input, and that will, I think, be helpful for the master plan. Breck Create came in for talking about BIFA. This year is only going to be 1 artist, and it's going to be in 3 locations, and it's quite a bit less intrusive than the other ones that we had before. It's kind of a cool thing with eyeballs on the trees and stuff. You'd have to look at it, but it's and then they also want to do kind of singers in the trees where they're in a deer stand and they're singing. Remember they had music doing that? Yeah. They're going to do that with singers. But then they're still trying to figure out the exact locations for these things. They talked Illinois Gulch, Sawmill, and one other place that they're looking at, but they're going to work with staff and see where the trees will hold the singers, because you'd hate to lose one.
Yes, you would.
The singer. Yeah, and that's the thing, they say, oh, we want to do it here. And the Tony said, yeah, some of those trees are, they're on their last leg. So they're gonna kind of rethink that, or decide where it's safe to do it. That's it.
Right. Hey, Todd, you want to do Breck Creative Arts?
Yeah, just real quick. So we had a pretty awesome strategy meeting before I left for Italy. So that kind of ran through kind of the highlights there. I guess the outcomes were they're working on partner relationships. They're working on growing their earned revenue. They're also working on fundraising. And that's going to be, those 3 will be big priorities for 2023. Programming wise, they're working on some arts-based camp pilot programs for the summer of 2023. Also looking at the strategy for the air stage and precious plastics. And as part of just making sure that Breck Creates vision is kind of going where the council wants, they'd love to get in front of us like in March or April. So just want to make sure that, you know, we're both just pulling in the same direction there. So stay tuned for more of that in coming months.
Great, thank you. Carol, rec history?
We're meeting next week.
Same for events. Tomorrow, actually. Jay, childcare?
We're meeting tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about some expansion stuff, the transfer to eco, as well as what infant rooms might look like. So hopefully we'll have some good feedback for you.
Canceled.
Then we won't.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, our last meeting was in January. It was January 4th.
Said exactly the same thing myself this morning, but I was
reach out.
told repeatedly, like, are you sure there's no meeting tomorrow? And they said, we are absolutely sure there's no meeting tomorrow,
Are people sick?
but I don't know why.
Okay.
So.
Everyone in the childcare industry is.
At all times.
It's probably true. It's that time of year.
And workforce housing, do you guys feel like we covered?
They covered it well.
Okay. End of work session, what do I say? Done here?
We're done here.
Closed.
Nice job. Good job.
Todd, are you on and you want to turn on your camera?
I am here and now I don't, you gotta give me video access.
Okay. Oh, I think I stopped you earlier.
Yeah. We kind of all voted that would do that.
I remember when I was on after I got my
So-
shoulder replaced, Rick just cut me off.
Oh, I know.
He didn't trust me at all.
When you started slurring your words, he was like, lost you.
Said, I'm not Jeffrey, come on.
Kind of how I'm feeling.
Yeah. All right, everybody ready?
Yep.
I'm going to call this town council regular meeting from Tuesday, February 28th, 2023, 7 PM to order. Roll call.
Dick Carlton,
Here.
Jeffrey Bergeron,
Here.
Carol Sade. Here. Jay Beckerman,
Present.
Todd Rankin,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kelly Owens.
Here.
Mayor Eric Mamula is absent.
All right, approval of the minutes, town council meeting minutes, February 14th, 2023. Any changes? Approval of agenda, Shannon?
No changes.
All right, communications to council. These are communications that are non-agenda items only, 3-minute time limit, please. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share? Well, we have the
Phone
we have the
agenda item.
update coming, but
Thank you, Bill Wachowski. Speaking as a non-resident employee in Breckenridge since December of 1995. And employer's office over here at 111 Ski Hill Road since 2010. Wanted to address the Riverwalk Center project that was discussed during the work session. Couldn't agree more with the crossings because I fear for my life just crossing Ski Hill Road from employee parking to the building. Second thing that I would ask that with that whole project, that I have a fear that there wasn't enough addressed between pedestrian and bicycle encounters. And I'll refer specifically to the area from 111 Ski Hill Road or Ski Hill Road, just adjacent to this building, over to the Blue River Plaza, where we are routing bikes next to the river, where there are tables, where people are eating lunches, etc. I've walked my dog and my children along that bike path for over 12 years. And this last summer, it was treacherous to be able to walk through there. And many times I wondered why we are sending pedestrians through an alley with cars and trucks and delivery vehicles and bicycles where pedestrians should go, where those tables are, where little kids are eating with their families. You talk about points of entry to the river. My dog's favorite place is to go on the river right along there. I would ask you to not wait until this project is finalized to change that routing so pedestrians are walking with pedestrians along the river and send the bikes with the cars and the trucks where they belong. Thank you.
Bill. Input.
Any others? Oh,
Hello, my name is Andrew Crawford, and I'm the store leader at the Breckenridge City Market. The town's sustainability consultant reached out to me a while back.
you know what? Can I interrupt you just a
Yeah.
second? We do have an agenda for the plastics and we'll
Okay.
take comments during that time. Sorry for the confusion. Thank you. All right, any other non-agenda items? Okey doke.
Tell you.
Bill's gonna use his second 3 minutes.
Yeah. Bill Wachowski, Breckenridge Tourism Office, Director of Operations. Thanks for having me.
He's in his new outfit now.
Um,
Small town, I know.
Yeah, right. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for having us. Lucy's out of town, so she asked me to fill in for the BTO update, Breckenridge Tourism Office. For those of you that don't know the acronym that we get accused of using too often. Right. Just want to do a couple of quick things. First of all, put on your calendars, please. March 23rd is our BTO Board of Director retreat at Beaver Run Resort at 9 o'clock until about 10. We're going to have Brian Lewandowski there. He's a professor done at CU Boulder, has come up for many retreats and done the economic impacts and forecasts the future, et cetera, et cetera. He will be presenting from 9 to 10. You are invited to attend as council members. If you can let Sarah Wetmore know that you will be attending, that would be awesome. swetmore@gobrec.com. Thank you. Let's see, moving on. Lodging update. As you recall, we did switch to Key Data in the middle of January. That has gone pretty well. We love the fact that we got data on a more immediate basis. So I'm going to give you an update based on bookings that were on the books as of February 27th, which is essentially yesterday, right? Winter season, looking at November through April, those 6 months, room nights year over year, we're down 8% year over year. It's been holding steady there for probably about a month or so, give or take a point or so. It's looking pretty close to how that will end up. Give you an idea, when we look at historical nights on the books, we're at roughly about 94% of historical nights on the books for the winter season. So a little bit of March to fill, and then of course, April. Summer, a little bit different story. The nights on the books year over year for summer is down 21% year over year. Available units wise, there's only a difference of about 1%. So it's definitely a booking level, something I've been keeping an eye on for a little while. When you talk to the group houses, group business is pretty solid. In other words, there's no indications that we're seeing a large drop in group business year over year. So it's feeling more and more like FIT business.
What's that acronym?
T, frequent individual traveler.
Okay.
Or frequent independent traveler, depending upon who you talk to. But you get the idea, mom and dad,
Yeah.
bring the
perfect.
kids,
I get you.
et cetera. Yep. Give an idea for summer where we're at right now, we're at less than 25% of historical nights on the book. So there's a lot of room to change and how that'll adjust throughout the summer, but just where pace is right now. I know revenue is always a big number, especially for here and especially for Dave in the back, who I share it with. Give you an idea, revenue per available room, RevPAR to some people, is down 10.5% year over year for winter season. So a little bit of nights, ADR is roughly off by about a point. Give you an idea for reference. For summertime, revenue per available room, RevPAR 32% down year over year. Again, I'll remind you, it's still very early in the booking process, but that's where things are shaping up as we speak of virtually since yesterday on Key Data. Point of reference, Key Data, we're using 25 properties and we have 2,477 units of the 4,808, I think it is, licensed in town. Yeah, 4,804, excuse me. So a little over half of town licensed units we are measuring on key data. It does include Vail Resorts, does include Beaver Run Resorts, and a variety of smaller property management companies. Does not include timeshare. But we
Yeah.
know timeshare is probably the most consistently occupied properties in town, rarely responsible for large or let alone small variances in our nights on the books comparisons or occupancy comparisons. Questions? Because I can keep shouting numbers to you, but
So Bill, with timeshare not in with key data, whereas it was with Estimetrics, have you made adjustments, or could that be where some of the shortfall of nights is? Because we know that, yeah, they're 90-some% occupied, right?
well, there'll be some differences in the data, but in the year over year comparisons, there's probably very little variance change because usually the timeshare properties, Ginny and Mike could tell you a lot more detail, but they're well occupied over 90%, 365. So there's not a significant change year over year in their occupancy or nights.
Yeah,
We are working with them to try and get their inventory on key data. So someday, hopefully soon,
So you don't think that's what's impacting some of the,
not timeshare.
So you said ADR is down 1 point for winter?
For
Is that
winter.
right? So they're holding price. The lodging's pretty much holding price. And does it look like they're starting to give on some price for the summer? Am I reading that correctly? with
Maybe,
the
maybe, I don't know. I think it's probably a little too early to tell, Dick. I think, they've become smarter with revenue management. So we're doing a lot more with length of stay requirements than dropping rates. As much as people may want to talk about high ADRs, the costs are up relative as well too. So they're not, I talked to the lodger today and there's some concern. There's concern with the volume and then what kind of rates that we're able to get.
Yeah.
But they would rather do minimum stays and start doing discounting. Because what we found a lot during the early part of winter was when rates were being dropped, it didn't drive demand, more or less left some money on the table. ADR is kind of tough because we got to look at with regards to what kind of units are being sold. Generally speaking, larger units sell earlier. And I think we're seeing a little bit less of that this summer, just by looking at some other data points, Still very early to tell, but that can make a big difference whether we're selling groups in at studios and 1 bedrooms versus families into 4 and 5 bedroom homes.
anything else? Anything else from you, Bill?
No, like I said, I could keep giving numbers and talking about things, but yeah, it's, we'll be keeping an eye on it.
Cool.
Thanks very much.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, continued business. Second reading of Council Bills Series 2023. Council Bill number 2, Series 2023, an ordinance creating Land Use District 46 and placing 8.8 acres of the Stilson property in the new Land Use District 46. A portion of TR 677, Section 31, Quarter 4. Do I have to go read all this? Okay, good.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Councilors. For the record, I'm Michelle Dahlmeyer, Planner 3 for the town of Breckenridge. So the ordinance in front of you this evening is for the second reading of the proposed Land Use District 46 for a portion of the Stilson property. After the feedback we got on January 24th, we made a small change to the map. So the acreage did actually decrease from 8.8 acres to 8.4 acres. So sorry, that was just a little typo in what you were reading. But no other changes were made. So if you have any questions, I'm available.
Questions? All right, does anyone wish to comment on this?
I had a question, Kelly. Just curious what changed on the map?
So we just decreased the size on the north side and brought it closer to that detention pond instead of bringing it all the way out to the road.
Cool, thanks.
Sorry, Todd. All right, any other comments? Okay, do we have a motion?
On second reading, we would pass Council Bill number 2, Series 2023, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. All right, Council Bill number 3, Series 2023, a bill for an ordinance to reduce single-use plastics and in connection therewith establishing fines and penalties.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, Kristen Brownson. I'm here for the second reading of the ordinance to reduce single-use plastics and recycled paper carryout bag fee. The purpose of this ordinance is to comply with provisions of Colorado HB 21-1162 and to expand regulations to limit single-use plastics in order to meet the material management goals adopted in the Sustainable Breck Plan of 2022. I'm here if you have any questions. We have no changes from earlier tonight.
Thank you, Kristen. Any questions? All right, we'll go ahead and take public comment. And if you have comment on plastics, single-use plastics, now's your time.
Hello, my name is Andrew Crawford. I'm the store leader at Breckenridge City Market. The town sustainability consultant reached out to me a while back, I believe last spring, and wanted to discuss sustainability. I talked to him about several things. Talked to him about how we recycle plastic and cardboard, donate to local food banks. I talked to him about the local housing situation and the struggle we face in the stores. He asked if we could eliminate all plastics in the store. I told him that would be impossible. Almost everything is made out of plastic. We discussed plastic water bottles. He asked about aluminum substitutes. I don't believe there are that many. I've heard nothing further about this conversation until today, when my company asked if I signed a petition to ban plastic. It has spread around that I attended a council meeting in September to sign a petition on behalf of a plastic ban in Breckenridge. This is false information. This is the first Breckenridge City Council meeting I have attended. Excuse me. I have not spoken to about or signed any petitions on the sale of plastic in Breckenridge. This ban would be a serious hardship on our store and several of the local businesses in town. This would also force local and non-local customers of businesses in the town to shop in other stores outside of Breckenridge.
Thank you, Andrew. Any other public comment on this issue?
City Market Day at the Breckenridge City Council. Hello, good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Thanks for your time. My name is Kelly McGann, and I'm here tonight on behalf of City Market. And respectfully, I'm here in opposition to the proposed ordinance aimed at reducing single-use plastics. We appreciate this is a worthy goal and one that we actually share in your desire to make steps to make our communities more sustainable places to live, work, and play. With that said, these ordinances must be balanced against the art of what's possible. Today, there are not viable alternatives to eliminating plastics and replacing those products with something else in our stores. Simply said, we are just the passer of goods looking to provide essential goods and fresh foods to our customers and your constituents. Out of the 40,000 plus items that we carry in our store today, this would have an impact of nearly 5,000 of them. So it's significant. There's just not a viable option. What we would ask that you would consider is maybe laying this bill over until we can include all stakeholders to understand the true significant impact that this would have on your constituents. In addition, many times these smaller size packages are available to customers who are looking to stretch their monthly grocery budget. This end of tape total would continue to rise as the cost of the products and alternatives would go up. The grocery budget already represents a significant part of these families' monthly budgets, in addition to groceries, and it would just create more uncertainty. We certainly appreciate your willingness to amend the bill as we go and to refine it, but that lacks transparency. It only creates headlines that create fear and lack any clear direction, and oftentimes will move the goalposts until the bill becomes law next year in July. So we would ask for your consideration again to vote no on this bill until we can include all stakeholders and find more viable options, or at a minimum, lay it over until we have time to discuss further. Thank you again for your time and your consideration. Happy to take any questions.
Kelly, The local population, do they buy a lot of single-use water bottles from you?
I don't have the exact numbers, but I would guess it's significant based on the product that we have shipped in and out of that store daily. But it's not just the single-use water, right? The bill is not just aimed at single-use water. It
No,
expands
no, I'm
to-
just asking about,
Right.
because that's pretty much has been my goal. When I see, when we have such wonderful water in Breckenridge and I see a visitor with a shopping cart full of bottled water and a lot of the VRBOs, a lot of the recycling is difficult to come by in some of these properties. But I was just curious about locals if they buy it.
And for us, we don't identify between locals or, residents versus non-residents.
No, but anecdotally,
Sure.
if
Totally, we probably sell a lot of water to the people who live in Breckenridge, but bottled water is used differently. If you're going to ski on a mountain, you're going to put that bottled water in your jacket because it's more convenient, right? If you're using it for your daily drinking, that's probably done from other alternatives. Is what we're starting to see. Is we can see when people are transitioning to larger size packaging, the gallon water bottles versus the single use. And I think the single use is used for a different purpose.
I
It
get
is
you.
in my family. I would guess it probably is like that for most.
I get you. Thanks.
Thank you. Any
Thanks,
other
Kelly.
questions? Thank you.
All right, any other comments or public comment on Council Bill number 3? Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, we had a kind of a spirited discussion at the work session. And certainly for me, the impetus of this has always been initially to eliminate single-use water bottles, plastic water bottles, and replace it with a can bottle. I know in all the Breckenridge events, we have canned water. And just that the aluminum is much easier to recycle and doesn't, end up as much in the landfill, and it can be infinitely reused. Yeah, I just want to kind of get a sense of what we're going to do, how this is going to work. Are we going to pass this thing and then with the idea of bringing stakeholders to the table and to see if, how we're going to prioritize it? As far as single-use water bottles or, just plastic bottles across the whole spectrum, anything under a half gallon.
Jeffrey, I think whether we pass it or not, we're certainly gonna listen to stakeholders.
Okay.
And, they're gonna, I suspect they're gonna come regardless of which way we go. 'Cause
Right.
I think there's a lot of passion on both sides of this discussion. So, the process, it's a long trigger until the time happens, 15 months or so. Do we have the intention of passing and changing? I don't necessarily. I think that's up to us as individuals, but if we learn something compelling that we don't know now in the meantime, then yeah, I think we're always open.
Okay.
Yeah, and so there are 2 roundtables already scheduled, one in March, but during spring break time is difficult, so they also did another during April. So we know for sure we'll be getting more comments, and if they are substantive and we want to make a change based on that, then we could, whether we pass it tonight or not.
I think our goal in sustainability, I think everyone definitely at this table and in this room remain the same. I think we all want to see the sustainability move forward. I know we all want to see plastic single-use water bottles to not be available in this community. I just think how we get there differs in our approach. I think that the discussion of let's pass this in order to get attention so that people respond and we can see the pitfalls is an approach that I'm not comfortable with. I don't think that's good government of passing something that most likely will have to amend and change. I think the goal should be, starting now, to start and continue a precedence of not passing ordinances that need to be amended and not to knowingly pass rules that need revisions. We don't even have a definition of single-use plastics yet. We don't even know what that actually is, what classes that is. And so the goal to not harm our sustainability and to move it forward, I think, is being moved slightly backwards in not passing the piece that has been looked at, due diligence done, and where stakeholders have been engaged, which is the single-use water bottles. Instead, we're using the cover of a consultant's PowerPoint, one slide in there that talks about all plastic bottles as cover to pass this broader one that I think has dire unintended consequences that will affect our residents who depend on generic Kroger or whichever generic beverages. It's going to affect our small business owners, and it's going to affect our guests in distribution, selection, and price. So in all, I am in 100% lockstep with the rest of council, moving this ball forward, being sustainable. Our approach is why I'll be voting no.
So if we could come up with, if we just did it just specifically for single-use water bottles, would you be in favor of it?
Because that's what's been vetted.
Right.
We haven't vetted what a single-use bottle is in other contexts. And you walk up and down those aisles, and where does we don't have we have a one sentence definition of what this is, in which we don't know, are salad dressings a beverage in that sense? Is it classified under an NAICS, I think is the classification of products? There's just a lot of ambiguity, where I agree with Kelly's comment that passing this as is creates a smokescreen that is very vague, doesn't have clarity, that the goalpost will be moving. We have the time to get it right, and we're choosing not to.
So Jay, if we didn't pass it, but we kept the same date of July 1, 2024 for presumably everything, if we could get there, even though the result of that would be that people who are preparing and trying to get things off of shelves and make changes would essentially have less time. And they've already said this is the smallest amount of time, or they feel that they need as much time as possible. Would you be on board with keeping that July 1, 2024 date to enact for sure water? And then if we could get there for all single-use plastics? Or would you say, yeah, if we don't vote to pass this tonight, then we're adding months to this deadline?
I think we can stand by the July 1st, 2024 deadline, irregardless of whether we pass it tonight or 4 weeks from tonight. I think that answers the question.
So, but this is the second reading, right?
It is.
And if we don't pass it tonight, do we have to start over?
So the charter requires that you either by majority vote approve it or reject it, but I think it'd be pretty easy to bring it back, if that answered your question.
We have to start with first reading again.
Right now, I'd drop dead, vote yes on single-use water bottles, but I am confused about everything else. So is there any way to put that on a fast track, or put that on, something that we can move faster and then study the other?
Well, but that one wouldn't be enacted until July 1, 2024.
Right, so we don't lose any time by doing, I don't.
Well, I mean, it's up to us whether we feel like we need to provide more time, because now we've
I get
taken
you.
time.
Yeah,
at the beginning
right.
We're shrinking the time for people to react.
To be
the
aware.
ordinance.
Right.
Too. And I think that's kind of Kelly's point, as well as where I'm trying to compel argument, is that I believe it would be more pertinent and more important, crucial to industry, to small businesses to know exactly what they're reacting to than to have more time to react to whatever it may become.
Kirsten, could you speak to the definition of single-use plastics and if you think there's ambiguity within that?
This is a question for Jesse. I believe that Jesse chose to define by size as opposed to single use because the definition of single-use plastic in her mind, what didn't really fit, but this is not a question for me. I don't know if. Oh,
No,
here comes Kristen.
I know that Jesse had mentioned single-use beverage containers, so I think it only applies to beverages.
Correct.
That's correct.
Plastic beverage container is what it refers to.
But I think it's the single use that we were trying to nail down, right?
Yeah, sometimes I think the single use is misleading because, a fifth of water you might drink in one sitting, but a fifth of bourbon, you're gonna, you might taste you more than a few days. So I'm all over the board on this one. I just wish that we'd left it, we just did it incrementally, did the single-use water bottles first, because with a clear conscience, I think they're a blight on our community. To say that, but some of this other stuff, I am confused and the ramifications of it do worry me until I feel comfortable that there is a viable alternative and that it won't, just kind of screw up the commerce in the town. So I don't know. I'm reluctant to make this motion.
I'm gonna see if Todd wants to chime in here.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you. Yeah,
There you go.
now we can.
All right, now we're cooking with gas. I share Jeffrey's concerns and Jay, I think you said that very eloquently. Yeah, I'm struggling here too. I mean, I love everything in the bill up to the water bottle piece and including the water bottle piece. And then beyond that, there's something that I think there's something to be said for revisiting this and incrementally getting it right and continuing to lead, but maybe stripping out the beverage containers until we've had the focus groups and to see from folks like City Market, like, all right, what can we do? Like, all right, we're going to do water bottles, but what sort of incremental improvements can they make with their vendors on the other beverages so that we don't have a challenge with our commerce? I'm conflicted like Jeffrey.
So Kirsten, can we put this off till next meeting?
We would have to, you have to vote either to approve or not approve. That's what the charter requires, but we can, I mean, in my view, one meeting to bring it back for first reading is not a big deal. And I know you are aware, but I think it's important for everyone to acknowledge that no matter what we do right now, we're not impacting water bottles until July 1, 2024.
Yeah.
And the industry has been aware of this because it's in the state bill. So I think if you are inclined to just maybe vote it down and then we can decide whether we bring back plastic beverages right away or bring it all at once after we do our focus groups.
We bring back everything that's in there now, except the things that go into effect July 1st so that you don't lose the skip the stuff.
Right.
Right. Because that we're going to have to start over with that. So we could probably bring that back.
Absolutely.
For
It's a
the
very good point.
first meeting in March, and then we'll at least get that rolling.
Yeah, that's the bummer about this.
So if nobody makes a motion, then it just dies.
Your charter requires you to vote on this.
Let them die before without a motion.
We'll be.
Are we gonna make them?
Huh?
We can do two things.
Yeah, true. Okay, I'll make a motion to deny.
I don't think you can do that. I think we have to make a motion and vote.
I'm my motion can be to deny.
Why did Eric give me such a hard?
Yes. Can he just make the motion or does he have, just make the motion, someone seconds it and then they vote?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to pass on second reading, Council Bill number 3, Series 2023. For a bill, an ordinance to reduce single-use plastics in connection therewith establishing fines and penalties.
Second.
All right. No further discussion.
Just wanted to let you guys, know, however we vote, I like you all.
Roll call.
Member Sade,
No.
Councilmember Rankin,
Sadly, no.
Councilmember Carlton,
No.
Member Bergeron,
Oh, yes. just a guess, right? No.
Councilmember Beckerman, Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. Okay, well, that was exciting. We are now on to Council Bill number 4, Series 2023, a bill for an ordinance to exempt recycled paper carryout bag fee from sales tax code.
Evening, Council and Mayor Pro Tem, it's Kristen Brownson with Public Works. This bill will exempt the recycled paper bag fee from the sales tax code. And that's consistent with our existing disposable bag fee. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Questions? All right, any public comment? No. Do I have a motion?
On second reading, move we pass Council Bill number 4, Series 2023, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. All right. Council Bill number 5, Series 2023, a bill for an ordinance amending Title 12, Chapter 3 pertaining to the town's water system cross-connection control program, and in connection therewithin adopting civil penalties for failure to comply with the program requirements.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council, James Phelps, Public Works. The bill for second reading this evening for approval, the title that has just been read into the record will provide and allow authority to the water utility to levy civil penalties for non-compliance of the backflow assembly program. As presented at work session today, there was only one change from the first reading, and that change, which resulted in a deletion, had to do with inconsistency of the definition of responsible party as it relates to the calibration of gauges and testing. With that, unless there's any other questions, that was the only change from first reading or second reading.
Thanks, James. Any other questions?
No.
Public comment on this? Motion?
On second reading, move we pass Council Bill number 5, Series 2023, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. Council Bill number 6, Series 2023, an ordinance authorizing the granting of easements to Public Service Company of Colorado for the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure and Excel Energy owned charging equipment. James?
Yes, this second reading for this council bill will authorize the town manager to enter into a service agreement with Excel and an accompanying easement for the location of an EV supply infrastructure station. There were no questions at work session today for the second reading. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Looks like there are none. Any public comment on Council Bill number 6? No motion?
Second reading, on second reading, I move we pass Council Bill number 6, Series 2023, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton. Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. All right, new business, first reading of Council Bill Series 2023, Council Bill number 7, Series 2023, a bill for an ordinance for policy 3A pertaining to density and making conforming amendments.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Steffi Schreck for the record, Planner 2. We are here with the additional changes to follow up with the mass we got rid of in last November. So these are just some clarifying code changes. The first one is allowing a 500 square foot bonus for market rate carriage houses in the Wellington. And then the other is an exemption for garages and or sheds in the historic district. So just allowing space for those up to 500 square feet to be exempted. Another change is just clarifying language for existing density limits, just not allowing homeowners to use an exemption if they've already used one. So cleaning up some language there. The gray shaded sections are your new changes. Everything underlined was what we previously agreed upon. So happy to take any questions or comments.
Thanks, Steffi.
Thanks.
Any questions? All right, anyone care to comment on Council Bill number 7? Seeing none, I have a motion.
On first reading, I move we pass Council Bill number 7, Series 2023, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton.
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. Council Bill number 8, Series 2023, a bill for an ordinance amending the municipal code relating to non-conforming structures. This you again, Steffi?
Yes, this is me. Hello again. So this is another change, just clarifying and strengthening some language in our nonconformities section, which is section 9-1-12, as well as kind of similar repeat section under the density code. It's basically just strengthening language that if something is burned or something happens to it, that the term will be that it shall be rebuilt instead of may be rebuilt. So strengthening the allowance for things to be rebuilt as is today. Happy to take questions.
Any? Anyone care to comment on this? Council Bill number 8. Do I have a motion?
On first reading, we'll move past Council Bill number 8, Series 2023, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. Council Bill number 9, Series 2023, a bill for an ordinance approving a development agreement with the Gondola Lot Properties LLC.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and other council members. We have a first reading for a bill for a development agreement between the town of Breckenridge and Breckenridge Grand Vacations to extend the vesting of the gondola lots master plan by 6 months to May 23rd, 2025, with the option of the town council by affirmative vote of the majority to extend an additional 6 months to November 21st, 2025. In exchange for the consideration of this extended vesting, the applicant is offering $100,000 capital contribution toward either a new in-town childcare center or in addition to an existing in-town childcare center that increases capacity. If an additional 6 months were to be awarded, an additional $100,000 contribution to the same purpose would be required. I'll be happy to take any questions related to this proposed development agreement. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions for Chris? Anyone care to comment on Council Bill number 9? Do we have a motion?
Actually,
Oh,
I have
sorry.
a comment
Didn't
on
mean to
it.
rush
As opposed, hey, Chris, sorry, maybe I do have a question. Do we need to clean up that owner piece? I
I think,
that language? Because
think-
I think it's more significant than maybe we're thinking here.
I guess I got Kirsten weigh in, but
So I will get with Chris between first and second reading, since this is somewhat of a minor change in my opinion. I think we can do it between first and second and see if it needs to go in there. Yeah. And you had one other, I think, proposal as well, but I'll get with him after this meeting if that's okay with you.
yeah, I think the second one was just to clarify that really anything that increases capacity, whether it be a renovation, addition, or a new facility, the contribution could be used towards.
Yeah, that one's easy. The other one is a little more complicated. Because I think there's dynamics in there that are significant.
Yeah, I think, when I just looked through it, it's a specific development agreement between who's listed in the development agreement and the town. And then there's also specific language that says it does not run with the land.
Sure.
So we may not have to tweak that, but Kirsten and I will have to look at it together.
Okay. And this is clear that the second 6 months is at the pure discretion of council. There's no right.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Do I have a motion?
First reading, a movie passed Council Bill number 9, Series 2023, the title of which has been read into the record.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade, Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. Council Bill number 10, Series 2023, a bill for an ordinance establishing the authority and use of the Valley Brook Cemetery.
Mayor Pro Tem and council members, this is a cleanup bill. We are setting forth the authority of the cemetery, and then we're going to come back in the next meeting and put on notice some updates to the cemetery rules and regulations. Let me know if you have any questions.
A lot of the residents breaking the rules.
You'll have to ask the people that enforce them.
Okay, any other questions? Real questions?
A noise out in this.
No? Anyone care to comment on, what is this? Council Bill number 10? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I think we totally passed Council Bill number 10 on the first reading, Series 2023, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. All right, into resolutions. Resolution number 6, Series 2023, a resolution making supplemental and reduced appropriations to the 2023 town budget. Dave.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Dave Bird, the Director of Finance. Just want to submit tonight supplemental changes to the 2023 budget, which have occurred since the approval in November of 22. We're looking to submit expenses, increase in expenses of $7,040,000, $265. I guess I said that wrong. $6,700,437 in restrictions, and an increase in revenues of $4,026,887 for revenue for 2023. The information is detailed out in the by fund and the descriptions, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thanks, Dave. Anyone have any questions?
I fully support the extra $86 liability for the cemetery. Okay.
It's important.
Having the sustainability fund be pulled out, I appreciate that you guys did that.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, anyone care to comment on resolution number 6, Series 2023? Do I have a motion?
I move we pass resolution number 6, Series 2023, resolution making supplemental and reduce appropriations to the 2023 town budget.
Second.
Oh, sorry, it's me. Any further discussion? No, roll call.
Councilmember Bergeron.
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. Resolution number 7, series 2023, a joint resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Breckenridge and the Board of County Commissioners of Summit County, Colorado, establishing a new methodology to determine the price of one transferable development right, TDR, sold by the town and the county pursuant to the amended intergovernmental agreement concerning transferred developmental rights dated and effective April 10th, 2007. Mark.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Intergovernmental agreement that Mayor Pro Tem just adopted in 2007, sets out a process for establishing the price for TDRs, sale TDRs from the Upper Blue TDR Bank, which essentially allows density to be transferred from backcountry down into the more urbanized area of town. The council and the Board of County Commissioners have recently discussed and agreed to changing the methodology associated with that, which would raise the price of TDRs relatively significantly. So the new methodology that is outlined here would base the price of TDRs on the median sales price of all backcountry land in the preceding 7 years. And that data is collected by the assessor's office and adjusted annually. So the price that's being set today, if approved, would be $237,070 per TDR. And then that would be adjusted on an annual basis. We'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions?
Mark, can you come up with that number based on comps from the last 3 years? Is that correct?
From the last 7 years,
7?
yes.
Any others? Anyone in the public wish to comment on resolution number 7? Since no one's here, must not.
I think everyone left
Have a
after the
motion?
graveyard thing.
They did.
Yes, I
Killed
move we pass resolution number 7, series 2023, a joint resolution of the Town Council and the Town of Breckenridge and the Board of County Commissioners of Suffolk County, Colorado, establishing a new methodology to determine the price of one TDR development right sold by the town and the county pursuant to the amended intergovernmental agreement concerning transfer of developmental rights dated and effective April 10th, 2007.
I'll second what Jeffrey said.
Any further discussion?
No, that's pretty good.
Roll call.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron.
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. Resolution number 8, series 2023, a resolution authorizing the town of Breckenridge to exercise an option to extend the term of the contract between the United States and the town of Breckenridge for water storage space in Green Mountain Reservoir for 40 years until April 3rd, 2065.
Mayor, Pro Tem, and council members, per our current agreement with the federal government for storage of water in the Green Mountain Reservoir, there is a provision that requires us to give advance notice if we want to exercise our option to renew the agreement, which we do. Staff firmly recommends we do. The option would extend the contract for another 40 years, which when executed would be in place until 2065. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Questions? Anyone in the public care to comment? No? Do I have a motion?
I move we pass resolution number 8, series 2023, a resolution authorizing the town of Breckenridge to exercise the option to extend the term contract between the United States and the town of Breckenridge for water storage space in Green Mountain Reservoir for 40 years until April 30th, 2065.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. All right. So
Nice job. Good.
Jesus.
Oh,
They sandbag.
I did stumble on exercise.
Yeah. I know.
That's the first time I've
I
used
thought
that
it-
word.
I thought you'd, like kick out the devil.
Okay. So now we're into planning matters. Planning commission decisions. Anyone have anything they'd like to
Call-ups.
talk about? No, great. All right, so planning commission appointment. We all have our voting slips. We had two really fantastic candidates. Elaine Gort and Andrea Rosenthal. They both were terrific and we hope to get them engaged in town matters in one way or another. We only have one seat tonight, so make your vote. And give it over this way. I think we're going to Shannon.
Shannon, do you want me to email you?
Oh, right.
Okay.
She's given up on us. Yes, that would be good. We did the report of town managers and stuff. Oh, well, we didn't do the town managers. I don't know if Shannon went to MMC because I didn't. So we just might not know anything about that.
Next week.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. So I just have other matters.
Of 4 votes for Elaine Gort and 2 votes for Andrea Rosenthal.
And so someone will reach out to them tomorrow, let them know. Mark will. Awesome.
Yeah, tell them
And-
they both are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ask Andrea if we can contact her with other potential opportunities, because she seemed really terrific. She'd be a good addition. Okay, thanks, Mark. So report of the town manager and staff.
You need to make the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to make a motion? Who wants
Yes,
to
I
make a
move
motion?
that we appoint Elaine Gord to planning. How do you spell her name?
Oh, that's great. Gort.
Oh, that's right, yeah. I move we announce, in there, as a town council member, I exercise my right to appoint Elaine Gort to the Breckenridge Planning Commission.
All right, roll call. Do we need to do that? Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron.
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes. All right, so now we will move on to report of the town manager and staff, but did you have anything?
Could have just a couple of reminder items.
Great.
I can find my notes here. One was cast, just to make sure everyone who has said they're going to cast remembers they're going to cast on Thursday. I think Peyton probably sent an email today if you need a car that she can reserve a car. So just let her know. And Todd, if you're not feeling great and decide you don't want to go, if you just let her know and she can get you canceled for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. The other thing, just a reminder that I will be away from Thursday through Tuesday and Seth Reed will be the acting town manager.
Well,
Be available and I will be working remotely for part of that time.
Oh.
That's it.
Great. All right. Thank you, Shannon. Report of the mayor and council members. We already did that. Other matters.
Are we gonna announce the our decision on the Vista Point letter to us about where we're gonna put the poop dispensaries?
So probably at your next meeting,
Oh, we'll
Public
talk.
Works will come back with a
Okay.
recommendation.
Right, right. It's a hot topic.
For you.
Yeah, that is for you.
Any other matters?
Yeah, I've got one. I got to spend a bunch of time with former Mayor Warner this past week. He encouraged us to look at getting some bathrooms out at the satellite lot just to enhance the user experience and the guest experience. So something to think about. Bathrooms near parking.
That's legit.
It is legit, yeah.
On the same token, I think we need bathrooms on the top of Hoosier Pass.
That's.
We
you
own
can
part
bring
of that.
up With
We own part of that. yeah.
CC.
Yeah.
Top of Hoosier?
Yeah, we do. We own, we have some land up there.
Hmm. Okay. Nothing? Nothing? All right. Adjourn.